Hey everybody, and welcome to this second part on the trine that builds empire. So this is the trine that's happening between Jupiter and Saturn from August 2026 to July 2027, and there's 3 exact hits. If you want to know the ins and outs, what a trine is, what does it mean when Jupiter trines, zodiac guidance for 12 sun, moon and rising signs, then check out part 1. I've linked it in the description, or it's in the playlist. And now in this second part, I'm going to talk about the wound that this trine, or wounds that this trine trying to make us face, and the shadow of this trilogy of exact hits between Jupiter and Saturn in trine. Then I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols, the Nat chakras in deeper context, how it affects the different areas of your life, the spiritual life, career parts of your life, your relationships, giving you more actionable guidance to help you deal with this trine over the next 14 months, how you can look after your health and body, giving you some self-reflection questions and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. I'm Imani, your holistic astrological karmic life coach, and thank you for listening. So the wound of this trine that's meant to build your empire, right? And you know, it's pure shadow I'm going to talk about now. Zero redemption, you know, there's no gifts in this section. No, but if you transform it, you know, I'm going to talk about what happens when Jupiter trine Saturn activates unconsciously, when the ease that I talked about in part 1, you know, trines are easy energy, so we can be complacent about it. Things can go easy, so we don't actually activate and use this energy. You know, when the need for expansion escapes the structure and routine and daily habits that's needed to build your empire, right? And when, you know, the structure crushes faith, like too much discipline, especially if you've got a lot of earth energy, Virgo, Capricorn, Saturn energy, and Capricorn energy in your chart. But yeah, so this is the poison without the antidote. This is when we go into the dark. If we don't use this energy, this is what could happen, right, or will happen. So yeah, so as I said, there can be trine laziness, right? We don't use the energy. 120 degrees is too easy. It's a natural flow between Jupiter and Saturn, means that growth, expansion and structure and routine are working together without tension. And sometimes in life we need a tension and challenge to actually do things, to find the solutions, right? So yeah, it should be a gift, and it can be a gift, but it can become a curse when you assume that the ease, the flow of it means you don't have to do the work, you just have to manifest, like I said in part 1. You know, saying things like, it's a trine, so it will just happen. But no, you know, trines just offer potential, right? Your activation, your doing, activates it, and with the fire energy it's allowing us to do as we go into 2027 and Jupiter and Saturn move into the fire signs of Leo and Aquarius, right? Because without activation, trine is watching planets harmonize in the sky while your life stays perfectly and exactly, well, not perfectly, but while your life stays the same, right? As I said, you will feel the water trine in August 2026, emotions deepening, intuition activating, your faith expanding. You can think, something's shifting, something's changing, and wait for the universe to deliver whatever you feel is going to fall out the sky, right? But nothing gets delivered, nothing falls out the sky. You're confused, but it was a trine, yes, and you coasted, right? Or you feel the fire trine in July 2027. The creative energy rises up and surges and increases. Confident, you know, is all out there. The glow up, the rising, the visibility, the calling. You're like, yeah, my time has come. This is what you think, and you wait for opportunities to appear, but nothing appears. You're bitter. The universe blocked me. No, you never built the foundation the water wants us to feel. As I said in part 1, this is all about feeling, being open, getting real about what you want to build, the life you really want to build, right? And if you build the foundation, the water go into your feelings, that will make the manifestation, the fire real. Trine laziness is mistaking potential for manifestation, easiness for completion, natural flow for guaranteed results. Most people experiencing the Jupiter-Saturn trine from August 26 to July 2027 will feel it as I'm processing something, feeling creative, kind of inspired, but not actually doing anything with that inspiration, right? Then July 2027 ends and the trine leaves the orb and they wonder why nothing changed, because feeling isn't building, inspiration isn't practice, potential isn't manifestation. The trine gave you the conditions, you just didn't use them, right? So now first we're going to look at the shadow of Jupiter. So this is growth, expansion, escaping the truth. So Jupiter wants more, always more growth, more abundance, more faith, expansion, more wisdom, more travel, more philosophy, more everything. Beautiful when serving life, poison when more becomes escape from what is. So Jupiter in Cancer can make us spiritual bypass at scale, right? From August 2026 to April 2027, you can say things like I'm expanding my emotional ability, capacity, but truly what you're really saying is I'm reading about feelings instead of actually feeling them. I'm in therapy, performing growth while avoiding the uncomfortable truth, the therapist's names, right, or the truths, the therapist's names. I'm doing plant medicine, seeking mystical experience while refusing to integrate the visions into my daily behaviour and changing my behaviour, my thoughts, my relationships, maybe sleep, eating patterns and all of that, right? I'm nourishing myself, you may say. The translation is I'm over consuming self-help content, workshops, retreats, teachers, while never actually implementing, starting anything. Nourishment as accumulation, not transformation, right? So, self-care, self-help, nurturing as just doing it, saying I'm having all the experiences, reading all these books, listening to all these podcasts, but not actually putting them into day-to-day practice. You can say things like my faith is deepening. The translation is I'm believing harder in outcomes I want instead of accepting reality as it is. Faith as wishful thinking, not trust in process, but wishful thinking. Jupiter and Leo, you can say I'm expressing my authentic self. The translation is I'm performing, I am confident, I don't feel it, really, creating content for validation. I'm addicted to, from others, from the external, from the likes, from the followers, leading before I've mastered the basics, speaking before I've earned the platform. You may say, I'm generous, though I give, but this translates into I'm giving to prove I'm evolved, accumulating spiritual status through visible service, using generosity to manipulate others into seeing me as special. Saying things like, the universe will provide. This is bypassing. Jupiter loves this one. I don't need to plan, save, build a foundation. The universe will provide. I'm using spiritual language to avoid taking on, adult responsibility. I expect others to catch me when I jump without a safety net and call them unspiritual when they don't. Saturn says faith work is a fantasy the universe provides through your constant and consistent effort over time, not magic appearing from nothing. Jupiter's shadow says that's limiting beliefs. Manifestation doesn't require work. Then they wonder why manifestation never manifests. The trine makes this worse. Jupiter's over-expansion feels supported by Saturn's structure when actually you're just building a fantasy empire and borrowed faith. Eventually Saturn's time catches up. You get to the end of the 14 months and you're like, oh, I've never even put anything into action. I've just had the ideas, The bill comes due and Jupiter's shadow collapses, So it's very important over the 14 months that you use the energy, yes, grow like Jupiter, think abundance, do the positive thinking, all the manifestation, but do the practical action. If you want to, maybe become a doctor, lawyer, do your own podcast, you need to be consistent. Anything in life that you want to change in your life, any habit, you're going to have to be consistent with your effort to do so, right? Now, Saturn's shadow is structure and routine, crushing the spirituality, the soul, because Saturn wants control, always control. More discipline, more limitation, more mastery, more time, more consequences, more testing, more work. Beautiful when serving growth. Poison when control becomes prison. Saturn in Pisces, August to April in the water trine can say, I'm structuring my spiritual practice, giving it routine, but the translation, the reality of it is, I'm turning mysticism into achievement, to master meditation into one more task on my to-do list, and compassion into an obligation I resent. I'm building boundaries. The translation is I'm protecting my energy to avoid all vulnerability, emotional intimacy, and the messiness of actual relating to others and yourself, right? Using boundaries as walls, not sort of like structures and membranes to sort of like, guide and protect your own and other space. You can say things like, I'm being realistic. The translation is I'm crossing my faith with doubt and my hope with doubt. And as I said in part 1, it's hard to have doubt in today's world. Limiting your growth with you're not ready yet. Using time as a weapon to keep yourself small and others small. Saying things such as you'll understand as and when you're older, is an excuse to never take anyone serious now. Saturn in Aries, the shadow of that is I'm mastering my will, but the translation is I'm suppressing my desire until I explode, controlling my assertion until I implode, using discipline to avoid actual initiation, mastery as an excuse to never begin. Saying things like I'm being responsible. The translation is I'm sacrificing joy, creativity, play, being spontaneous on the altar of duty. Weaponizing responsibility to make life joyless, The elder who forgets how to laugh, not having fun, even though, you may just be doing the job to pay the bills, but you can still, use your imagination and creation. Sometimes we fall into our circumstances, but we say, I'm religious, I believe in this God and all of that. Well, it's about having faith in the things you don't see, seeing the trials of your life, not forgetting about the ways that you may have been victimized or anything like that, but, being comfortable. If you say you believe in something, believe in it, right? Also, Saturn can say, as I said, you're not ready yet, and use it as a weapon. Saturn loves this one. You need more practice, more time, more mastery. And it's true, we have to spend time to learn the things that we need to do. But I've learned this as well. Sometimes we just need to throw ourselves in the deep end and do it, Saturn can say you're not ready. As I said, you need more mastery, more time. Sometimes true, often an excuse to never let anyone, including yourself, actually step into their own power. So Jupiter says, have faith, leap, begin now. Saturn shadow says you will fail, you're unprepared, wait until the perfect moment which never comes. Then you wonder why nothing ever gets started. The trine makes this worse. Saturn's structure feels justified by Jupiter's expansion when actually you're using discipline to avoid the very growth discipline should enable, right, and let you do. Eventually Jupiter's abundance can't flow through Saturn's closed system, the pressure builds, and Saturn's shadow cracks, right? The shadow of the water trine is drowning in emotion. When, Saturn's in Pisces, Jupiter's in Cancer, from August 2026 to April 2027, this is a feeling element. Beautiful when feeling leads to truth. Poison when feeling replaces truth. We can fall into emotional manipulation, saying things like I feel unsafe when you disagree with me. Equals you must never disagree with me, my feelings control your voice, saying things like I'm just being compassionate, when it equals I'm enabling harmful behaviour and calling it love. We're all one, which equals I'm dissolving my boundaries into yours and calling loss of self spiritual, saying things such as I'm protecting you, I'm controlling you, and calling it care. That means, right, saying things like I feel called to, which equals I'm using intuition to avoid accountability for choices, right? This is the shadow of Cancer. Smothering as nurturing, clinging as protecting, guilt as manipulation, home as prison, family as obligation enforced through emotion. And the shadow of Pisces is compassion without discernment and judgment, enabling abuse, boundaries dissolving into codependency, surrender as a passive collapse and not standing up for yourself, right? Transcendence, going above it, rising above it, which helps you escape responsibility, saying things like I'm too spiritual for conflict, avoiding necessary confrontation. The water trine creates habits built on emotional manipulation rather than emotional truth, such as I built this relationship, business, community and deep feeling. No, you built it on guilt, codependency, unexamined emotion, masquerading as wisdom. So this is the shadow, right? So this is the worst that can happen with this energy. So the shadow of the fire trine is ego empire. When the trine makes its last exact in Leo and Aries in July 2027, this is a will element. Beautiful when will serves a larger vision than self. Poison when will serves ego performance. So it can fall into creative arrogance, right? Such as I'm authentic, which equals I'm performing authenticity for validation, while my actual, self stays hidden. I'm a leader equals I'm dominating and calling it leadership. I'm expressing myself equals I'm vomiting unprocessed emotion at an audience and calling it art. Saying things like I'm generous equals I'm giving to prove my superiority, accumulating status through visible service. And of course not all of us will be guilty of this, but it's also wanting us to look at our shadows. Why are we doing the things in our life? Why do we want to build an empire? Why do we want to build the life that we're building or living, the life that we're living? Having the relationships we're having, doing what we're doing, right? This is a good time, as I said, to build your emotional intelligence, right? Looking at your motivations, why you're actually doing the things that you do. You can also say things like I'm confident, which equals I'm arrogant, calling criticism jealousy, refusing feedback as, protecting my energy. The shadow of Leo is narcissism as self-expression and need for constant applause and validation, creativity as performance for external validation, leadership as domination and control, generosity as manipulation, playing God. The shadow of Aries is reckless impulsivity as you being a pioneer, the first, knowing better, right? Aggression as honesty, selfishness as independence, and beginning things without finishing, charging ahead, crushing others in the path, and using war as a leadership style, right? The fire trine creates a visible empire built on ego rather than a genuine foundation. So saying things such as I manifested this success. No, you perform confidence while the actual structure, the water going into your feeling was never built. You seek external validation rather than, asking yourself what you want to build in your life. Why do you want the things you want, right? So as we, go into the shadow a bit more, the empire built on others' labour and work, right? So the trilogy, as I said, is August 2026, April 2027 and July 2027 when Saturn is trying to Jupiter makes its exact hit right, so we can create a genuine foundation and, test it by our willingness to go deep and work with our emotions, and this can lead to visible manifestation by practical actions, right? or it can create appearance of a foundation, performing, being deep, right, just posting things, creating content to get likes and to follow trends, building an ego empire with no substance, it's just performance, maybe stealing other people's ideas and stuff like that, right? So in terms of how this shadow can progress, maybe in August 2026, during the water trine phase, you performed emotional work without actually doing it, using therapy as performance, meditation as spiritual materialism, boundaries as wars, compassion as codependency. You look like you're building a foundation, but you're building a fantasy. And as we go into April 2027, the test arrives, right? So any cracks in your foundation can be revealed because it was never revealed. Instead of recognizing this and rebuilding on truth, you defend the fantasy, blame external circumstances maybe, and double down on performance rather than actually living and being the truth, right? I am saying things like, I did the work. No, you consume content about the work. So when we get to July 2027, which is the fire manifestation and the final exact hit of this trine, maybe you will launch anyway a business without a foundation, creative work without any planning, leadership without competence and skill and expertise, visibility without substance, just following the trends, trying to make the bag and all of that, which is nothing matter with that earning and stuff, but sometimes people can know what's real and what's fake, right? You manifested an empire built on others' unpaid labour, intellectual property, extracted resources, consolidated power, hoarded wealth, and ego performance masquerading as service. And the ease of the trine, the easiness of it helped you do this, it enabled this. You coasted the natural flow, assumed harmony, meant success, and built an empire while sleepwalking. Saturn's structure served Jupiter's growth, but expansion of ego, not collective good. Structure of control, not service. So this is the worst case scenario. We're talking about the shadow of this energy if you don't use it, if you don't follow the guidance given you in the sun, moon and rising guidance and the other tips, or use this energy positively. It's for you to, I'm just giving you ideas here, it's for you to go within and to think about how you can use your energy wisely during this water trine, right? So examples of this, right, a spiritual teacher, Jupiter energy, right, building a brand Saturn on students' free labour and calling it a community, which we've seen over the past 10-20 years. Many spiritual communities have done this. Guru complex, many spiritual communities have fallen into this, which is Leo's fire, source from bypassing your own shadow, which is Pisces water, and the empire was built and souls were crushed. Maybe an entrepreneurial, scaling an entrepreneur scaling their company through exploitation, calling it opportunity, and visibility source from image management, not genuine value, wealth accumulated and workers are disposable, creative, building a platform through appropriation, calling it inspiration, leadership without acknowledging lineage, where you got your ideas from, taking credit for collective work, fame achieved, integrity lost, and there's many examples of this across all professions, right, not just the spiritual and astrological and healing space. The trine gave you the ease to build an empire. You built an empire, but the empire serving what? Self-order, collective, extraction or regeneration, performance or true. If self-extraction, performance, the shadow trilogy, if that's what you fall into, you will know by 2028 when harder transits arrive and the foundation reveals there was never a foundation, just a facade, just fakeness, just to get the lights and to trend, right? So as I said, there's no redemption in this section. This is the worst of what can happen with this energy. the wound exists, the shadow exists, the trines ease enables all of this to happen, where we can just, because it can come easily, we can not do the work and probably build the empire and get what we want, but it's not built on truth, it's not built on going through the process, it's built on lies, and most people won't recognise they're in their shadow version until years later, when the empire built on a false foundation collapses. And we've seen many examples of this, right? So, your job is to don't be like most people. Build your empire on truth. Whatever you choose to build with this trine energy, build it on truth, not performance. Structure serving life, not ego. So, yeah. So that's the end of the shadow section. Now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbols that Jupiter and Saturn go through as they make their trine in August 2026, April 2027, and July 2027, right? So, going more into the sort of symbolic meanings. So, yes, stay tuned for all that good stuff. So now I'm going to talk about the Sabian symbology, as I said, and, from the perspective of what these add to this tune that can build your empire, your world, where you can reach your goals, right, over 2026 to 2027 while this trine is active. So Sabian symbols in astrology, each degree of the zodiac, 1 to 316 total, has a Sabian symbol associated to it. This is a channeled image received by psychic Elsie Wheeler in around 1925, interpreted by the astrologer Mark Edmund Jones and deepened by Dane Radar. The symbols operate as archetypical images, teaching through metaphor, not literal prediction. So, as I said in part 1, there's 6 unique Sabian symbols across 3 exact dates of this trine that can build your empire. So we've got the 20th degree of Cancer, where Jupiter is on the 31st of August 2026. So the Sabian symbology is Venetian gondoliers giving the serenade. I was going to say sangria, but serenade in Venice, the boat people giving the serenade to lovers. So the key word for this Sabian symbol is charm. So this can be the romantic idealization of love and beauty. Like, we all sometimes think we gonna have that rom-com Disney version of love, and then when we fall in love we often find out that it's a lot different. And the gondolier serenade lovers floating through the Venetian canals at night, image of romance, artistry, culture, refinement, improvement, beauty, serving, courtship, dating. So the psychological expression of this Sabian symbology is that it's giving us the ability to get what we want, to charm, to seduce through beauty, art and romance, to create an atmosphere that enchants, and use aesthetic refinement to express our emotion. The lover, the artist, the one who knows beauty matters. So it's a good energy to use to, improve your sense of self, especially your outer appearance, to create art, to appreciate art, and it gives us the emotional atmosphere to help us create a connection or repair problems in our relationships. And I'm going to talk about how this trine affects our relationships in about an hour in real man's terms in more detail. But the serenade is offering something beautiful to the beloved audience community. So this is cultural sophistication expressed through emotional channels. And how this applies to Jupiter in Cancer is Jupiter, expands our ability, our skill for emotional beauty, nurturing through aesthetic refinement and improvement, helping us to create a better home, family environment that's not just functional but beautiful. It also allows us to appreciate the abundance of beauty in the simple things around us in our life, have more faith in romance and art and cultural expression. And Cancer is, emotion, nurturing home, and the Sabian energy add beauty to the nurturing. So it's saying, don't just feed people, feed them beautifully. Don't just create a home, create a beautiful home. The gondoliers aren't just throwing, they're serenading. The extra is the point, to add that extra. How can you add beauty to, your personal development goals or any other goals? But the shadow of this energy is using charm, our appearance, our beauty as manipulation, beauty as performance, hiding emptiness, romantic idealization, escaping reality, the serenade, that's all performance and no genuine emotion, using aesthetic refinement and, improvement to seduce without an authentic connection. But the gift of this energy is that genuine beauty serves genuine emotion, charm sourced from authentic appreciation, and romance, that honors deepness beneath the beauty, creating an atmosphere that actually nourishes us, not just impresses others, and to integrate this energy, beauty and romance are given structure that can endure and last, so it can help us repair relationships, create new relationships, using charm as a discipline so it serves truth, not just seduction and getting what we want, although, it's a good energy to help us market stuff, to sell stuff, and also work on our emotional refinement and change, so that it can become a long-term practice, not just a peak experience that lasts only while this trine is active. And then we've got Pisces in the 20th degree as well, when this first trine is active on the 31st of August 2026. So this Sabian symbology is a table set for an evening meal, and the key word is happiness, wholeness, fulfillment. So the traditional meaning is preparation for communion with a higher power, with the hidden aspects of yourself, with others. The table is set, not the meal itself, but the preparation, the anticipation, the structure, the routines, the systems that holds things coming together. So hospitality, readiness, and the work before, a gathering, a social event, a dinner party. So it gives us the ability to prepare, to create spaces for togetherness, communion, to build structures, routines and habits that enable serving and anticipate needs before they're spoken. The host, the one who sets the stage, the builder of spaces where people can, come together. So this is not a literal dinner table, it's a metaphor for creating structures, routines and habits that enable sharing, communion, coming together. The preparation is the practice. Setting the table equals building a foundation before the thing happens. So setting new habits, creating the lifestyle you need and to achieve your goals, as I said in part one, the preparation, right? So how this applies to Saturn in Pisces during the trine of August 2026 is that, we can create spaces for transcendent experiences, disciplining the practice of hospitality and the work of setting the table, setting the right habits, routines, and Pisces equals transcendence, communion, dissolution, letting go, merging, right, combining with others. And this Sabian energy gives us the ability to go beyond, to transcend, but to prepare for us to go beyond as well. So communion needs structure, transcendence requires preparation, the meal, which is the mystical experience, requires the table being set. So, discipline, practice, getting outside of our comfort zone, changing our day-to-day habits, so that we can reach our goals. So, for instance, if you want to be a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse, or whatever you want to be, you have to give yourself time to study. So binging Netflix and chilling and overindulging in drugs, toxic habits or whatever 24/7 won't help you reach these goals, right? So you don't just surrender, you prepare to surrender correctly. So it's about the planning of, and meeting the needs of your goals. The shadow of this energy is endless preparation, never arrives at the meal, such as I'm setting the table, using it as an excuse to avoid actually eating. structure preventing the communion it's meant to enable, perfectionism in preparation as avoidance of vulnerability in serving. The gift is preparation that genuinely enables communion, structure serving transcendence, the table set so while the meal can fully be experienced, hospitality as a spiritual practice, readiness allowing surrender. To integrate this energy, with Saturn in Pisces, structure, preparation, discipline, hospitality, and Jupiter in Cancer, beauty, charm, and romance. The combination is asking us to prepare brutally for the coming together, for the communion, setting the table, the routine, the habits, the system, so the serenade, the beauty, the change in our life can happen. Charm, giving the space that makes it real instead of just performance, right? So with Cancer, 20 degrees and Pisces energy together, the gondolier serenade requires the table being set together, creating beautiful emotional experiences with yourself and others that are also structured, routined into your day-to-day life. So making a plan to look after your emotional, psychological and spiritual needs, and the emotional, psychological and spiritual needs of a relationship, so they're not just a thing you do one day or 1 week. It's a habit that you build into your life. So romance with discipline, charm with preparation, the beauty and the bones. So what you're building August 2026, the structures, the routines, the habits of emotional beauty, relationships, homes, creative work and spiritual practices that are both beautiful, which is representative of the 20th degree of Cancer, and prepared correctly, which is Pisces, the 20th degree, right? Not just feeling good in the moment, but building a foundation that makes feeling good sustainable and long term, right? So as we go into April 2027, we have Cancer, where Jupiter is on the 3rd of April 2027, which is the second exact of this trine that's lasting for just over a year, right? So the 23rd degree of Cancer has the Sabian symbology, meeting of a literary society. So key word of this is mentality, thought patterns, looking after how you think, right? So this is intellectual gathering. The literary society equals people who value ideas, culture and refined discourse, conversation, meeting, coming together around shared intellectual, cultural or other interests, right? Not physical work, not raw emotion refined through intellect. So it gives us the ability to engage ideas socially, creating a community around culture, intellect, participating in conversation, value, mental refinement and improvement, the scholar, the researcher, the academic, the writer, the reader, the one who processes experience through words and shares them, shares that processing with others. So the podcaster, the content creator, the journalist. So this is not a literal book club, though it could be, right? It's a metaphor for gathering around shared ideas, intellectual community, spiritual community, culture conversations, the meeting, the exchange, the conversation, the collective processing of meaning. So growing or joining a subreddit of your interest, whether it's a TV show, podcast, whatever, true crime, whatever, a food podcast, a self-development one, a spiritual one, or creating your own, right? So Jupiter, as I said, grows our ability for emotional intellect, nurturing through ideas, creating a home in a community of minds, family, as said, intellectual kind of heritage, lineage, abundance of conversation, faith in culture, literacy, writing and the written word, the spoken word. As I said, Cancer equals emotion, nurturing home. This Sabian symbol adds that, the energy, so emotion can be intellectualized productively, not just felt like, rawly. And The literary society is a home for minds, nurturing through ideas, a family of writers, thinkers. This could be your actual family or who you call your family, and processing emotional truth through cultural improvement. The shadow of this energy is, intellectualizing emotion to avoid actual feeling them, such as saying things like I'm processing in my literary society, performing sophistication while bypassing genuine vulnerability, using culture as elitism, ideas as gatekeeping, mentality escaping the, living your beliefs, to stating your beliefs, intellectualizing them, but never living them, embodying them, right? So the gift of this energy is emotional intelligence combined with cultural intellect. Processing feelings through creative writing or any other creative expression, having meaningful conversation and sharing, reading, content creation, all of that expression. Home is created through intellectual togetherness, communion, the book club, the social group, that actually nourishes individual and joint goals. So to integrate this energy into the Jupiter Trine Saturn, it wants us to and allows us to intellectually process things at a spiritual, deeper meaning. Cultural conversations can be grounded in higher, rational, mystical practices, and the literary, and that's the right way, literary, yeah, that's it, society as a spiritual community, right? The 23rd degree of Pisces is a materializing medium giving a seance, right? Which is the Sabian symbology for this degree. So this is a psychic, a tarot reader using their gift, maybe in a seance, trying to contact the other side or the higher self. So the key word of this is substantiation, which basically is making the invisible visible. The medium, the psychic, channels spirits, brings messages from beyond, materializes, shows what can't normally be seen. The seance is a ritual space for crossing between worlds. It gives us the ability to give form to the formless, make the invisible visible, channel from the unconscious to the conscious, bring the spiritual into the material, right? And the medium, the channel, is the bridge between worlds. So, this is not a spiritual seance. This is a metaphor for giving material form to spiritual insights. Although, some of you may involve yourself in a spiritual seance, but in terms of the metaphor, it's giving material form to spiritual insights. So bringing our spiritual goals into reality by practicing them, by creating things around them, channeling unconscious wisdom into conscious expression, making the mystic real. And the medium is anyone who translates the invisible right to the visible. So Saturn, as I said, gives structures, routines, habits, and it allows us to channel, to make the mystical material, disciplining the practice of using spiritual ideas, mediumship, tarot reading, whatever, psychic gifts, building spaces that enable crossing between worlds, the rational and the non-rational, structured and the unstructured spirituality, and being more disciplined in the way that we carry out our spiritual practice, right? So Pisces is transcendence, mysticism, the invisible, and this Sabian symbol allows us, to make the invisible visible. Mysticism needs material form, so it's okay having ideas, as I said, but it's about putting your money where your mouth is. And if you want to check out the Magic Triangle audio I've done from 2025 to 2028, there's more about this, how, falling into the dark side of using spiritual gifts and how corporations manipulate this, and over the next few years, how we have to be more vigilant with this, especially with AI having a rise in our global and local world, right? So as I said, mysticism needs material form. Transcendence channels through you into the world. You're the medium, and structure enables the channeling. The shadow of this energy is performing mediumship without a genuine connection, such as I am channeling, as ego performance, making things up and calling it, a spiritual guidance. Structure prevents actual mystery, turning the seance, the psychic into a soul. The gift of this is genuine channeling. The invisible becomes visible through dedicated practice and honesty and truth. Mysticism is grounded in discipline and practice. The medium is actually connected to the source, not just performing a connection, but actually doing the meditation, the daily practices themselves, right? Structure serving mystery instead of controlling it, right? So this combination of Saturn in Pisces in the 23rd degree and Jupiter in Cancer in the 23rd degree, it allows us to channel mystical wisdom into intellectual conversation. The seance bringing the invisible visible, happening within, the literary society, in actual world, in the groups we belong to, cultural processing, and the spirit made word, right? So maybe you have been, deepening your spiritual practices over the years, but now it's time to make the spirit word practice, to start that business, to deepen that podcast, to create and speak your mind and speak your truth, rather than following what other people are saying in any space, right? Being your own boss, speaking your own mind instead of following trends. So to bring this energy of Cancer, the 23rd degree of Cancer and Pisces, 23rd degree together, the literary society, Jupiter in Cancer, the intellectual community, cultured emotion meets for seance. Saturn in Pisces is channeling this invisible information to the visible, right, which is routine, structured mysticism, and together it allows us to process spiritual insights through cultural, intellectual refinement, improvement, the writing that channels the conversation that makes mysticism real, community gathering around shared spiritual practices that are given intellectual form and practice. So what you are deepening in April 2027 is the foundation from August 2026, which now includes intellectual, so rational, logical, and irrational spiritual integration, not just feeling Cancer and preparing, the Pisces energy from August, with Saturn being there. Now it's processing through culture and the 23rd degree of Cancer, and channeling mysticism, which is the 23rd degree of Pisces, right? So the literary society is discussing what the seance revealed. So in August 2026, we'll get the vision, right? And by April 2027, we should be following through on that practice, right? So the final Sabin symbols and the final exact is Jupiter is going to be in the 3rd degree of Leo on the 12th of July, when this Jupiter-Saturn trine makes its final exact date, right? So this Sabin symbology is a woman having her hair cut, bobbed, and the key word of this is independence, right? So breaking with tradition. So in the 1920s, right, a woman cutting her hair, bobbing her hair was a radical act, rejecting Victorian long hair femininity, claiming bodily freedom, autonomy, and visible rebellion. The cut, the choice, independence declared publicly from what was socially acceptable, and this is asking us and giving us the ability to break with what's expected from us, from our culture, our family, the world, claiming independence visibly, making choices that announce freedom, and rebelling through appearance and presentation, and to individuate from collective norms, right? So this is not about hairstyles in 2027. It's a metaphor for visible acts of independence, choices that announce I'm different, breaking with tradition in ways others can see. The bob is the signal I'm not performing the role that you assigned to me. It's what this energy is saying, right? So, as I said, Jupiter here is expanding our skill, our ability for visible independence, being more confident in our freedom, being more creative in how we rebel and separate ourselves from others, taking us and allowing us to form leadership through difference, having the faith in individuating ourselves, separating ourselves from the collective, giving us an abundance of self-expression and growth through being seen as different. So Leo equals creativity, self-expression, leadership, and the saving symbol adds the expression that includes breaking from what's expected from us. Leadership means going first into a path, into territory others consider radical and not normal, non-conformist. The bob, the cutting of the hair, is the creative act that says I choose differently. This is visible self-dignity, visible independence, right? But the shadow is rebellion as performance for attention. Independence claimed but not actually lived, just saying I'm different while secretly conforming, doing what everyone else is doing, breaking tradition to get a reaction, not because you're genuinely called to a different path, but just to get attention and lights and external validation. And the bob, the cut, is a costume, not a choice. The gift of this energy is genuine independence that's visible to the world. Autonomy, freedom lived, not just claimed. Creative choices sourced from the authentic self, not a reaction against others. Breaking tradition because new tradition needs to be created, right? The bob, the cut, doing that because that's actually who you are. And Jupiter in the 3rd degree gives us visible independence, creative rebellion. Trine Saturn in Aries allows us to start things, and giving us independence with discipline. Rebellion, that is routine and structured so that it lasts, and creative freedom becoming a long-term sustainable practice, not just a one-time statement to get a like and validation or follow, right? The final saving symbol of this trilogy of trine that builds the empires, right, is Aries being in the 3rd degree. So Saturn's moved from Pisces into Aries, right? So, and of course Jupiter's in Leo, right, for this final trine on the 12th of July 2027. So the saving symbology is a cameo profile of a man in the outline of his country. So this keyword is idealization. So this is an individual embodying the collective, the cameo, the carved portrait, the outline of the country equals the person is contained in the land. It represents the people and carries ancestral identity, not just individual, individual as space for lineage, placing them collective, it's all, not just individual. So the ability to represent something larger than ourselves and to live collective values is given to us, allowing us and wanting us to be an individual while containing multitudes and carrying ancestral cultural identity visibly. The leader who's also a citizen, the person who is themselves and their people as well, So this is not about nationalism in 2027. It's a metaphor for individual identity sourced from collective, ancestral, cultural, spiritual, religious roots. You're not just you carry lineage, land, people in your very outline, in your core, right, in your being. When others see you, they see what you represent beyond yourself, right? So how this applies to Saturn in Aries, July 2027, is that Saturn structures, routines and habits have the ability to represent their collective while being an individual, while individuating, right? Discipline, the leadership that embodies our lineage, and master the art of being an individual who contains multitudes. Structured representation, disciplined embodiment of a larger vision is given to us. So Aries energy is all about initiation, starting, pioneering, starting things, right? So we can start things that include carrying people with us, right? Independence doesn't mean abandoning others and our lineage, our culture. It means being an individual expression of the collective of your culture. The cameo shows a person and the country. Both are visible at the same time, but the shadow of this energy is, using the statement of I represent my people to claim authority that you haven't earned, performing collective identity while exploiting the collective, nationalism as a weapon, individual ego hiding behind I carry the lineage. The cameo is propaganda. The gift of this energy is that it gives us the chance to genuinely embody, live the collective values through individual expression, leadership that serves people, not just self. So, by now, you've cemented, you started that business, continue that business, individuate yourself from others in your space, not looking at what they're doing to get ideas, creating your own trend, being your own trend, right? It's leadership that serves people, not just yourself. So looking at what the people need as well as you, and, sort of like talking to your group, and the right people will hear you, starting things that honor where you come from while creating where you are going. The cameo that's actually accurate. Your outline does contain your country, lineage, people, because you've done the work to integrate them. So to integrate this energy, Saturn in the 3rd degree of Aries, representative of the collective, discipline, living what we believe in a disciplined way. Trine in Jupiter and Leo, is visible independence, so showing yourself to be independent while respecting the collective. So independence that serves the collective, right? And the rebellion that honors the culture, the lineage, the woman, bobbing, cutting her hair, which is individual freedom, while her profile contains her country, her collective identity, both and not either or, so, representing all parts of yourself. So Leo, the 3rd degree, in Aries, the 3rd degree, the woman bobbing her hair, visible independence, creative autonomy, so creative freedom, whose profile contains her country, her culture, her life experiences, the good and the bad, the strengths and the weaknesses, right? Embodying the collective struggles as well, good and bad, cultures, whatever, and structured representation. Together, individual creativity, creative freedom, right, that serves the collective, visible rebellion, source from genuine culture, independence that doesn't abandon the culture and the roots, but manifests through it, right? So what you're manifesting in July 2027 is everything built in the water trine period of August 2026 and April 2027. So now become visible action through fire energy. We have both Aries and Leo involved, right? So we had Cancer, Pisces energy, water, the feeling, the planning, the foundation. Now it's the doing as we're going into from April 2027 to August 2027 and beyond. The independence is real because the foundation was genuine. The embodiment, the living of the culture, the collective is real because you actually integrated your culture through the water work, through your plans, through your goals, emotional and spiritual deepness as well as practical living. Fire makes visible what water built, right? So as we go into August 2027, the seeds you planted, the goals you set or continue or refined in August 2027 becomes more solid, right? So now I'm going to talk about the Natsakra wisdom in more depth now. So the Natsakras are 27 lunar mansons, each have 13.20 orb of the zodiac, so 360 divided by 27. Each Natsakra has its own ruling planet, its own deity that rules it, mythology, and Pada division. So each Natsakra has 4 divisions, 4 Padas per Natsakra, right? So Natsakra wisdom operates at a deeper psychological and karmic level than the Sabian symbols, right? So we have 4 unique Natsakras across 3 dates, right? From August 2026 right up until July 2027. So we have Jupiter in Elisa at the exact times of the trines in August 2026 and April 2027. So Elisa Natsakra ranges from the 1640 orb of Cancer to the 30th degree of Cancer, and the ruling planet is Mercury, and the deity is Nagas, Sarpa, the serpent deities, guardians of treasures and underworld wisdom. The symbol is the coiled serpent, the serpent wrapped around the wheel, and the element is water because, Cancer is a water sign, and Elisa is a water Natsakra within that sign. And we've got, the 23rd degree of Cancer and the 20th degree of Cancer where Jupiter are. So the mythology is the Nagas are serpent beings that live in Patala, the underworld. They're not evil. They guard treasures, protect sacred knowledge, offer poison that heals or kills depending on the wisdom of the recipient, your level of awareness and what you're going to do with that wisdom, right? Because, we can all have the wisdom, but some of us use it to uplift others. Some of us use it to control others and make a cult, right? So this is Kundalini, serpent coiled at the base of the spine, is Naga energy, and Elisa means the embracer or the entwiner, the combiner, the serpent that wraps around, holds, protects or suffocates, kills us, stunts us. The serpent sets, lets go of skin, death and rebirth that's embodied and lived. The coiling is the protective embrace or the possessive stranglehold, and where we hold others back from their dreams or stop them controlling behavior, all of that. And the venom is the medicine or poison. Some substances, venom can kill us, but some venom can heal us. So it's medicine or poison, same substance. The consciousness, how we use it, determines the outcome, right? So the psychological energy is us holding on, clinging, the grip that protects or possesses, emotional intensity that nourishes or drowns, Kundalini wisdom rising or Kundalini blocking that, creates an illness, knowledge hidden in the deepness, that you have to go down into the anxiety, the depression sometimes, to descend to retrieve it. The alchemist who knows poison becomes medicine through the right relationship, right? So the shadow of this energy is emotional manipulation, clinging disguised as care, possessiveness is rationalized as protection, using vulnerability to control, using guilt as a weapon, such as I know what's best for you. The serpent is squeezing until you can't breathe, coiling around people, project, beliefs and calling it love. The gift is the fierce, protection of what deserves protecting. Intuitive knowing from the deepness, Kundalini wisdom when channels are clear, alchemizing trauma into medicine. Emotional intelligence that sees beneath the surface, right? The serpent embrace that holds without controlling, shedding, letting go of skins that no longer serve, going down into the underworld and returning with treasure, right? And while Jupiter's in Pada 1 of Elisa in August 2026, Jupiter grows, expands through the serpent wisdom. Faith is sourced from emotional deepness, not intellectual heights, right? Abundance is discovered in what's being hidden. The treasure, the Nagas, guard. Growth requires us going down, descending into our own underworlds, working with our unresolved psychological, emotional, spiritual wounds, right? The expansion is protective, coiling, intense, not light, Jupiter says yes to everything, but deep Jupiter says yes to what my gut actually tells me is true. No to what smells like poison, even if it looks like an opportunity. So having good judgment, discerning through this time, you may be given a lot of offers or choices and choosing the right choice from your own, thought processes or trusting your gut. And Pada 1 adds the serpent wisdom that wants us to shine. The Kundalini wants to rise. The emotional deepness becomes creative power, but premature rising before the channels are clear. So premature moving ahead with plans creates a cult crisis. So, August 2026 is the building channels, clearing the pathways, letting go, or continuing the work of letting go that's stopping you from being all you want to be, not forcing the change of the Kundalini, inviting it in and, refining your goals, making a plan, letting go of making plans to look after your self, letting go of toxic relationships and habits, starting the work, being gentle. You will fail many times, getting back up after each failure of changing the things you want to change in your life. And as we get into April 2027, Jupiter's in Pada 2. So the foundation from August now gets refined, analysed and practically applied. Pada 2 is serpent wisdom through good judgment. Now you can tell which hold, which in your life what's holding you serves you, and which suffocates you, what habits, relationships, all of that are suffocating you, which intuition is a clear channel, and which intuition is trauma, because sometimes we can't trust our gut feelings because, sometimes have unresolved trauma. I don't know that we're seeing through the lens of trauma. We can mistake our gut feelings, so it will give you the ability to see more clearly, which intuition is a clear path channel and which is just a trauma response, and also see which coiling protects and which possesses us. The refinement, improvement Jupiter needs is expansion, growth through good judgment, discrimination, knowing which habits of us controls ourselves and others, and which is freeing us and protecting us. So Elisa and Jupiter, the protective, emotional deepness, serpent wisdom, the fierce holding and protection. Trine Saturn, where Saturn is, which is offering us a safe passage through our trauma and endings, and nourishment and self-care, healthy self-care during the transitions. And together, the serpent is holding, creating a safe space for endings and transitions. Emotional intensity is given structure that prevents us from, drowning, and the Kundalini is given a chance to rise through discipline practices, Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, whatever, dealing with your psychological, emotional, spiritual trauma, allowing the Kundalini or spiritual gifts and ideas to come about, rise, naturally, rather than, forcing ourselves into spiritual and other awakening and realization. So allowing our negative thoughts, habits, relationships to go at their own pace, but not rushing it, but not clinging on to what we need to let go of as well. So as I said, Saturn's in Revati, Natsakra, in August 2026 and April 2027, and this ranges from 1640 Pisces to 30 degrees of Pisces. This is the final Natsakra, 27 of 27, and this covers the 20th degree of Pisces and the 23rd degrees of Pisces. And the ruling planet is Mercury. The deity is Pusan, and this is the Vedic deity of journeys, roles, nourishment, protection of travellers, guide of the souls, and the symbols is the fist, the drum, making rhythm, music for the journey, or a pair of fish swimming in opposite directions. The element once again is water, because Pisces is a water sign and Revati is a water Natsakra, completing the water signs Natsakras, right? So yeah. Pusan is the nourisher, the protector on dangerous roads, the one who guides herds so they don't get lost, the psychopomp who escorts souls from this life to the next. He carries a gold which is used for guiding and moves through all realms. He's the deity. He says, "You're safe, I'm with you, trust the path even when you can't see the ending, the destination." So trust in the journey, right? And Revati is the final Natsakra of completion, endings, the end before the cycle begins again at Ashwini Natsakra. the threshold between what was and what's becoming, the luminal space held safely. So this is all about honouring endings, completion, transitions, holding them safely, allowing ourselves to move on. The guide who doesn't abandon you in the uncertain space between the old and the new. Nourishment during transformation. Wealth that comes through genuine service, not just distraction, faking spirituality, or just faking anything technological advance just for the sake of it to get money. The final star before dawn. Darkness ending, light coming, both present at the same time. The shadow of this energy is the inability to complete, always starting new before finishing the current, resisting endings, trying to prolong what's over. So looking at your life and thinking about what do you need to actually finish before you start that new project, that new relationship, or what do you need to let go of so you can start that new project and heal yourself and start a new relationship. So thinking about where you resist endings, trying to prolong what's over, depending on guides instead of becoming a guide, instead of reclaiming your power. The whole point of spiritual or any other advancement, any other skill is, one day, yes, you are the student, but you should become the teacher, so allowing yourself to stand firm in your authority, trusting your authority, trusting that you can be a teacher, not always just being a student, and sometimes being a student while you are teaching and learning as you go along and learning from past mistakes, right? Turning them into, wisdom. So nourishment, self-care that enables dependence in the shadow aspect, saying things like just one more journey, avoiding actually settling, accumulation as defense against future uncertainty rather than letting go of things and going with the flow, allowing yourself to advance. Sometimes we're scared to take on the responsibility of being a leader, so we stay the employee, so just thinking about, the ways that you're ready to move on. The gift of this Nat Chakra is completion, is honoured as sacred as the beginning, right? Endings are allowed their time. Safe passage provided through transitions for ourselves and for others. Nourishment, nurturing, love, and other, empathy given freely without creating dependence. Guidance that teaches independence. Wealth accumulated through service that genuinely serves and helps others. The wisdom of having completed the full circle and cycle, right? Such as, I've been through it all and I can help you deal with this because I've been there, So Saturn is in Pada 1 of Bhavati in August 2026. This is ruled by Jupiter, Sagittarius, Namvasa, completion through philosophy, endings, teaching wisdom. The shadow of this energy, spiritually bypassing our grief or ending. The gift is faith during the endings and transitions. Saturn is in Pada 2 of Bhavati as it makes the second exact trine in April 2027. This is ruled this Pada by Saturn Capricorn. So this is completion, endings through structure, endings requiring discipline. The shadow is being rigidly controlling in the ways that things end. The gift of this is mastering the art of finishing things well. So, Saturn in Pada 1 is structuring the completion in August 2026 and the transition and the ending process, discipline of the guide who's, walked the full path, time honouring endings instead of rushing to the next beginning. The structure is nourishing, not controlling the journey but ensuring safe passage, not preventing endings but creating space where endings can happen without trauma, not accumulating to avoid uncertainty but building genuine wealth through service during transitions. So in Pada 1, Jupiter Sagittarius energy adds faith in the ending process, trust that endings serve a larger meaning, philosophy that includes death as a teacher, wisdom sourced from having completed full cycles. August 2026, as I said, is building faith that endings, completions are okay, structures, routines and habits that enable us finishing, not just maintaining are the ones we should be doing right now. And as we go into April, when Saturn moves into part 2 of Pisces, the foundation from August 2026 now gets disciplined deeper and further, right? Mastering endings through new habits and structures and systems. Now you can actually finish things if you've not already done that. Not just thinking about, philosophizing about things, and philosophically accepting endings, practically implementing the endings, living the endings, The discipline of ending, saying no to new things while, current things are still incomplete, honouring the time needed, required for proper endings, building new routines, habits and structures and systems that include space for, the rest and the endings, not just, perpetual growth. So giving yourself the time to, regroup and replan and plan again and set up new plans, but not just rushing to start new things as well. So, Vivati in Saturn is safe passage through endings and structured nurturing and self-care and disciplined guidance. Trining with Elisa in Jupiter, protective emotional depth. Together, the guide Vivati is holding space for the serpent Elisa to let go its skin. Completion through emotional deepness is being given to us by this Natsakra. Endings are honoured through feeling, not just logic. The final star is creating a space for Kundalini transformation. So August 2026 to April 2027, the water trine energy with both planets in Mercury ruled Natsakras, both in water, both allowing us to process ending things, become more deep, meaningful, to work with our emotions and to transition through, Mercury's intelligence, analysis, communication and practical wisdom of the messenger. So Elisa, Jupiter and Vivati, Saturn together equals the serpent wisdom, given a safe passage through endings. Together they bring emotional intensity that doesn't spiral into us being overwhelmed, because structure, routines, new habits, changing our lifestyle creates the safety, right? Endings don't traumatize because emotional truth is honoured. The coiling of Elisa enables the completions, the ending of Vivati. The completion Vivati allows the coiling to release when the time comes, so they're working together. And what this means for you practically is that you can go deep, what Lisa wants you to do, because you can trust as a guide for your journey back, which is Vivati energy. You can let things end, Vivati, because emotional truth supports the completion, Elisa, and the water trine operating through 2 Mercury Natsakras, intelligence, guiding, feeling, communication, translation, intuition, and practical wisdom can come up and emerge from this emotional and spiritual, deepness and depth, right? Okay, so Jupiter is in Magha Natsakra in July, the final exact of the trine, right, the 12th of July. So this covers the 0 to the 13.20 degree of Leo. So the ruling planet of this Natsakra is Ketu, which is the south node, which represents past life karma, release, spirituality and surrender. The deities Pistris, the ancestors, departed fathers who watch our bloodline, the lineage, and our blessed descendants that demand our honour. The symbol is the royal throne, palanquin, the carriage seat, and the inner chamber, our inner world, our inner emotions, right, our subconscious. The element is fire, and Leo is a fire sign, and Magha is a fire Natsakra, and Nisei in the fire signs, right? So Pistris are ancestors who have left their physical bodies, but remain involved in our family, spiritual, like heritage, bloodline, conversations, memory, whatever. They are said to watch descendants, bless those who honour them, and withdraw favour from those who forget. And Magha means the mighty or the great. Regal energy, inherited authority, ancestral blessing. The throne isn't earned through personal achievement alone. You sit on a throne built by those who came before. Your power is inherited, blessed, passed down, but inheritance comes with responsibility. Honour your lineage, serve people, use power wisely, or ancestors with your support, and the throne crumbles. So, this is all about inherited power, ancestral legacy, regal bearing, the weight of responsibility that comes with authority, creative freedom as birthright, not just a personal achievement, leadership that comes up from our culture, our bloodlines, or our spiritual creative ancestors as well as our blood family. This could be honouring what came before while building what comes next. The throne was held with gratitude and duty. The shadow of this energy is feeling entitled arrogance, saying things such as, I'm special because of my bloodline, my family, my money, whatever, using the ancestors as a excuse for privilege without responsibility or accountability. Power without service, regal energy is domination, creative output, proving superiority, and thinking that, that just proves the superior, whatever you do, because you may have money, you may be CEO, whatever. Leadership that demands people serve you, forgetting the throne was built by others, labour, sacrifice and vision. You own a company, it's your employees that help you create your vision, right? The gift of this, because you can't do it alone, so they help you make your brand identity and all of that. So recognizing that the gift of this energy is genuine freedom that comes from honoring culture and lineage and our family bloodline, creative power that acknowledges what came before, right? Leadership as service to the collective, using inherited gifts to benefit the many, regal dignity without arrogance, and the throne held tightly, gratitude for your inheritance and commitment to passing it forward to the next generation, right? Improves from the version before, and each generation improves, right? So part of one is the Aries Namvasa, which represents royal freedom, independence, starting as a new cycle. The shadow is us feeling entitled, especially, in terms of our ego expression. It allows us to be creative in our leadership and honor our culture while starting new things and progressing. So, Jupiter expanding through regal, royal ancestral power, wanting us to have faith in our bloodline, creativity as an inherited gift and abundance blessed by our ancestors, and growth that can come through honouring what came before and laying to bed our psychological and emotional and spiritual family trauma, or trying to do better to progress, right? Building what's next. This is the accumulation, ending of the water work that started in August 2026 to April 2027. What was built in emotional, spiritual deepness now manifests as visible creative power. The throne, represented by Magha, you sit on, was constructed during the water trine, and in July 2027 it's about claiming the throne, occupying, living the freedom, the independence. But Magha, which is key to South Node ruled, reminds us this power isn't just yours, it's inherited, blessed by, ancestors or people that did the work before you, and passed through lineage or culture. Your creative work stands on the foundations that others built. Acknowledge that, honour that, use power to serve, not just sign. The people that use, like, say, horses as the main sort of like means of transport, were the pioneers for the people that invented the car and train. So just thinking about the work that others have done in your field, in the world, which now allows you to do the things that you want to do. So, acknowledging that your creative work stands on the foundations, patterns, tools others built, acknowledge that, honour that, use power to serve, not just sign. And Pada 1, the Sun Aries, adds the sort of like freedom that wants to start things. The Throne wants to lead into a new territory, a new path, but starting things while honouring roots, not abandoning your culture, your heritage to prove independence. So it's the royal who remembers the crown comes from ancestors and power serves people. So all in all, my car where Jupiter is, trining Ashwini Saturn, and what I'm going to talk about next, together the royal Makar starting things in Ashwini, ancestral power is becoming innovative action, the throne is blessing the new path, and the leadership is honouring while creating what's never existed, right? So Ashwini, where Saturn is in July 2027, the final trine, right, is the first of the 27 at Sakras, right? And Saturn's at the 3rd degree of Aries, and Q2 rules this Nat Sakra again. So it's all about past life mastering the present. The deity of this Nat Sakra is the Ashwini Kumaras, the divine twin horsemen, the celestial physicians, and the bringers of the dawn, the light, the masters of quick, swift healing. So the symbol for this Nat Sakra is the horse's head, or 2 horses chariots. The element is fire. Aries is a fire sign, and Ashwini is the fire Nat Sakra, initiating all Nat Sakras, right? It's Nat Sakra number 1. So in mythology, the Ashwini Kumaras are twin sons of the, sun god, and celestial mare horse Ashwini. They are physicians to the gods, healers moving at supernatural speed, miracle workers. They rescued the sage Charvana from old age, restored youth, and healed the unhealable. They ride golden chariots pulled by horses, arriving at dawn with cures, answers, divine interventions. As the first Nat Sakra, so this is initiation, beginning the dawn after the darkness, quick, swift action, healing that can't wait, the pioneers who go first. Psychologically, this quick healing action, miraculous intervention, starting things, methods and medicine, giving us the ability to move fast without recklessness. Initiation that transforms our life, our habits, healing through speed, not a slow process, and dawn consciousness, the first light after the long darkness, the divine twins working together, or the both sides of ourselves, the intuition, our discipline and our need to grow for Jupiter, need for growth Saturn, discipline working together, integration of opposites, healing through partnerships of our strengths and weaknesses, our psychological, emotional, spiritual strengths and weaknesses. The shadow of this energy is using speed as an escape from deepness, starting with our integration, our past lessons, healing as symptom, fits without transformation, changing our life, actually changing our day-to-day habits rather than just thinking about doing it, miraculous thinking, avoiding the practical work, right? So starting things that abandons what's started already, swift action as impulsivity, and healing others while neglecting yourself, the doctor who can't heal their own psychological, spiritual or other wounds, right? The gift of this energy is quick healing that actually heals at the root of our problems, starting things, giving medicine that serves the collective, initiation honoured as being sacred, speed combined with precision and focus, being fast and accurate, action sourced from divine guidance, not just ego and will, the ability to move quickly when called, so being fast, which is Jupiter, growing fast, and accurate, which is Saturn energy, right, giving us the ability to move quickly when called, slowly when appropriate. So Jupiter quick again, slow Saturn, right? Saturn moves slower than Jupiter, right? Bringing that dawn after the long night, the deep darkness of the soul, allowing us to hope and have faith after the darkness, after heartbreak, after struggles in our life, allowing ourselves to begin again after the necessary endings. So Pada 1 is ruled by Mars, Aries and Vasa, double Aries energy. The shadow is reckless speed, and the gift is disciplined initiation, mastered through practice. So ultimately, Saturn in Ashwini is Saturn making quick action, discipline of the divine healers, time, mastering speed, not slowing it down but making it more focused, more precise, more directed, more sustainable and long term, boundaries around starting things, energy, preventing burnout, to allow ourselves rest and relaxation, to go fast when needed, to slow down when needed. And this is a paradox, because Ashwini wants speed, Saturn wants patience and often slowness. To integrate this energy, it's discipline, being disciplined in starting things, taking quick action that's structured and routine, healing that's rapid and long term, initiation, starting things that actually complete what it starts, right? The structure isn't preventing action, it's channeling action, like the horseman. Ashwini symbol, horses are fast, but a rider directs, the rider directs the speed. Saturn is the rider, Ashwini is the horse, and together speed, serves a purpose, not just us running wild. And in Pada 1, Mars, Aries, adds double fire, maximum initiation energy, maximum starting things, from impulse. So we've got to be careful, right, because it's double fire. But Saturn's discipline, prevents the explosion, prevents the impulsive, allows us to channel the fire into long-term sustainable action instead of burnout. So July 2027, we should have mastered, beginnings, the ability, it gives us the ability to start and finish things, starting things and enduring them, getting up after each failure, overcoming the challenges and obstacles that Saturn energy and life always brings, right? And, to integrate this energy, Ashwini Saturn, Trine Magna, Jupiter, together the pioneer Ashwini is blessed by the ancestors, Magha, quick healing through honouring our culture, our lineage, our bloodline, and starting things. Initiation is sourced from inherited wisdom, from learning from our past mistakes, and the divine horseman is carrying the royal throne forward into new ideas, new path, new territory. And ultimately, both of these planets are in Q2 ruled nakshatras, both in fire, both processing, past life mastery, spiritual inheritance, karmic endings and completion through initiation and sovereignty. And Magha, Jupiter and Ashwini Saturn equals the royal throne, and Magha, ancestral power, creative freedom, starting things, which is the Ashwini energy, quick healing action. Together we are able to, take lead in a way that innovates, freedom in a way that starts things and pioneers, thinks outside of the box, goes against conforming and what everyone else is doing, and ancestral blessings that allow us to take quick action in the new paths that open up the new goals we may have, right? And the throne, the royalness, the freedom doesn't make us stagnant, and makes us stay in our comfort zone. It doesn't do that. It doesn't do that. It gives us the foundation to leap from, to start from. And practically this means the creative power that you build in the water trine energy of the trine, August 2026 to April 2027, can now manifest as you're starting things that are blessed, taking action, blessed by our lineage, by our bloodline, learning from our past mistakes and all of that, learning to control our psychological, understand our psychological, spiritual and emotional trauma, ending toxic relationships. We can start and initiate boldly with courage and be brave. Ashwini energy, because the foundation is genuine, right? You lead with freedom because you've earned it through going deep, right? The work of Elisa and Bhavati in that chakras. And the fire trine operating through to Ketu, South Node, that's Chakras, at the end, the last of this trine energy, right, in July 2027, is past life mastery, bringing that into the present. Karmic skills are, the karmic skills are available. Spiritual inheritance is activated. You know how to do this because you've done it before, and this is just a different context now. So we're learning from our past and moving forward. To do that, we have to think about the things that we need to do to grow, right? And now I'm going to talk about the development areas that this, trine that wants us to build our empire wants us to focus on. So the first development area we should be focused on is long-term building. The Saturn's time and the Jupiter's vision, right? So most people think in weeks, months, maybe 1 year, but Jupiter, and Saturn in this trine asks, what are you building that will matter in 5, 10, 20 years? Saturn operates on geological time. Jupiter sees the vision that takes decades to manifest. The trine gives you 14 months from August 2026 to July 2027 to build something, to start building something that lasts beyond your lifespan, right? So why this edge? Well, culture conditions us in instant pleasure and gratification, quarterly earnings, bonuses, short-term thinking, disposable everything, take everything to the tip, throw away, upgrade our phone every year when we don't need to. But this results in building for decades, feeling naive, impractical and unrealistic, right? You say, why invest in something I might not see completed or ended? But, cathedrals took centuries, the pyramids took ages to build, old growth forests, have taken millennia, thousands of years to go into full form, right? Genuine cultural transformation takes generations. And the most important work that each generation of humans do is work that serves people not born yet. So the practice is in August 2026. As I said, choose one thing to build for the long term. Not that I will grow my business this year, but I am starting a lineage business that will serve my grandchildren's generation. Not I practice meditation, consistently, but I am establishing a daily practice I will maintain until death that will inform how I die. That might be teaching, might be a teaching that, I pass to students who will carry it forward. The thing you choose isn't the whole legacy, it's the seed, the start, small enough to actually begin, significant enough to matter long term. In April 2026, the test, 6 months in the long-term building, shows that, that no immediate results may be visible. The culture asks, is this working? Should you quit and try something else? The edge is continuing despite a lack of immediate payoff, trusting that Saturn's time is correct even when Jupiter's growth isn't visible yet. And by the time you get to July 2027, right, the first tiny evidence something has germinated, started, not completed. For some of you it may be completed, but at least it started. The seed is sprouting. This is when you either recognize the long-term work that requires you to celebrate the small milestones. The sprout is the victory, even though the tree hasn't, won't fruit for years. You plant the seed, but it won't bear fruit. You won't see the results for years, or you may abandon it because it's not happening fast enough. But, it's about keep on going until you succeed without ending, right? And by 2028, if you continue, you will have a foundation that will unfold for decades, or you will have another abandoned project because you couldn't tolerate the long term, the long arc game, right? So Yeah, so think about the long game and work towards it. The second development area is faith with structure, with routine and lifestyle changes, accountability and self-empowerment, right? So not compartmentalization, not putting things in compartments, seeing the whole. So the edge of this is that most people split these. Faith, Jupiter lives in spiritual practice, church retreats, peak experiences. Structure, Saturn lives in jobs, responsibilities, commerce, real world stuff. But never the trine shall meet. You put everything in compartments. But Jupiter, Saturn, the trine asks, what if your faith and your structure were the same thing? What if spiritual practice was daily work? What if structure served vision instead of crushing it? What if faith shaped structure instead of escaping it? Why this is the edge, right? Because spirituality that's compartmentalized, or religion that's compartmentalized, feels safer. I'm spiritual on Sunday, religious on Sunday, but practical Monday to Saturday, keeps faith from being tested, keeps the structure from being challenged. Integration threatens both. Faith has to prove itself in structure, it gets tested, and structure has to serve faith, it gets transformed. So the practice during August 2026, which is the Water Trine Foundation, where Saturn and Pisces are in Cancer and Pisces. No, that wasn't right. When Saturn and Cancer are both in, where Saturn and Jupiter are both in Cancer and Pisces, right? So identify where faith and structure are split in your life. So examples are, I believe in community, but I live in isolation. I believe in abundance, but I hoard resources. I believe bodies are sacred, but I work a job that destroys my body. I believe in service, but my income comes from extraction, taken from other people's ability to wealth, The split reveals what you claim to believe, which is Jupiter's faith, isn't structuring your life. The Saturn, the form, they're separate. So, by April 2027, when, the signs are still in water, Saturn and Jupiter, right? But, the deepening in the 23rd degrees begin integration. Not quitting the job immediately and leaping into faithful work without a plan, but bringing faith into structure and structure into faith. So the examples of this is, I keep an isolated job, but start attending a weekly community gathering, integrating belief into structure. I keep current work but begin skill building in a service-based career with a timeline for transition, from my current job into a new job, structuring the faith so I can manifest. The integration is slow, requires both movement, Jupiter, energy, movement, progress, and patience and slowness, Saturn. So by the time we get to 2027 July, the integration becomes visible. Your work increasingly reflects your values. Your spiritual practice increasingly shapes material reality. Faith and structure aren't two separate things. They are one life. So by the time you get to 2028, you will live an integrated life where what you believe and how you live are coherent. Or you are still, compartmentalized, exhausted by the split, wondering why spiritual practice doesn't work. The third development area is emotional foundation for visible action. So water preparing the fire. So in general, culture rewards visible action, fire energy, measurable results, profit, public success. But the culture in general doesn't reward invisible emotional work, which is water, Pisces and Cancer in this trine, right? Nor does it reward private processing, psychological healing. So people skip the water, jump to the fire, build careers, platforms, empires on unprocessed emotion, then wonder why success feels empty. The Jupiter-Saturn trine trilogy, structure, water, August to April, fire July 2027 says you can't skip the water looking after your psychological, emotional and spiritual health, right? The fire manifestation only works if the water foundation is genuine. Emotional truth has to come first, visible action second. And why this is an edge is because emotional work is hard, slow, invisible and unrewarded. Action is exciting, fast, visible and celebrated. Culture teaches just start, take action. Feeling is a waste of time, but action, sourced from unprocessed emotion, creates harm, and we've seen it across the world, right, where, we didn't think about, for instance, in recent times, how social media will change our lives. And yes, there's a lot of positives, but because we didn't make allowances for the bad ways, we are living in a world where a lot of things happen bad on social media, from cyberbullying to sexual abuse and all of that. So, action sourced from unprocessed emotion creates harm. Leadership from a wounded ego dominates. Creativity from bypassed trauma manipulates. Visibility from unhealed wounds performs. The empire built on emotional avoidance, eventually collapses, right? So the practice this development edge wants us to do is from August 2026 to April 2027. Do the invisible work, therapy, somatic body processing, emotional honesty, the shadow work, the inner child work, letting out the grief and rage, being vulnerable, healing, no performance, no posting about it, no sharing my journey for likes, private, messy, real. This period isn't preparing for action, it is the action. The water work is the work. If you skip this, July 2027, fire manifestation will be an empty performance. So during April 2027 specifically, this is the test of whether the water work was real. Are you actually different? Can you feel without defending, trust without controlling, hold boundaries with compassion and empathy, lead without dominating, create without performing? If yes, water work was genuine. If no, you performed emotional processing without actually processing. By the time you get to July 2027, this is the time to act now, lead, create, become visible, share, launch, manifest. But because, the water foundation is real, the fire manifestation, can serve. It isn't ego performance. It doesn't manipulate. It comes from overflow, from plenty, from processing, from self-acceptance, forgiveness, love, It isn't emptiness trying to fill itself. So by the time you get to 2028, your visible work, your career, your platform, your creative output, your leadership is source. It comes from genuine emotional, psychological and spiritual health, not performance, right? Hiding wounds, destined to collapse when tested if you don't deal with your, the shadow work and inner child work you need to do. The fourth development area is collective abundance. This is Jupiter's growth, serving beyond the self, right? So the edge of this growth development area is Jupiter wants abundance, right? Saturn wants routine, structure, right? And together they can build personal wealth and collective freedom, or personal wealth that's extracted from the collective and the collective is lacking, right? Your choice determines which. So the Jupiter-Saturn trine asks, what are you building that serves beyond yourself? Not how can I get mine, but how does my expansion serve collective thriving growth? How does my structure enable others' freedom? And why this is an edge is because capitalism teaches abundance for self, lack and scarcity for others. I got mine is celebrated as success, accumulation as achievement. Your wealth is measured by how much more you have than others, but genuine abundance is collective, right? Your thriving depends on others' thriving. Your structure is sustainable long term only if it serves life. Extraction eventually exhausts, everything. Look at climate change and all of that. What's being extracted? Only regeneration endures and lasts. So the practice of this is in August 2026, audit what you've been building. So, some examples are: my business, does it redistribute wealth or concentrate it? My creative work, does it serve collective healing or just my brand? My spiritual teaching, does it liberate students or create dependency? My leadership, does it elevate my community or consolidate personal power? Honest answers, no spiritual bypassing. So as you get into 2027, April, adjust and change, your structure, your routine, your lifestyle towards collective service, not giving everything away and martyring yourself, neglecting yourself, but building models that genuinely serve others, So examples of this are: pay what you can alongside standard pricing, revenue sharing with collaborators, those you work with, skill sharing freely, using the platform to amplify, increase, marginalized voices, right? And open sourcing knowledge instead of hoarding, restricting knowledge, right? And, hoarding IP and all of that. And this results in structure that serves the collective while sustaining you, both and. By the time you get to July 2027, the manifestation includes a collective dimension. Your success isn't I won, others lost, it's I thrived, and my community is thriving, and this thriving of mine created conditions for others thriving. The empire you built for yourself lifts boats, it doesn't sink boats, it doesn't sink others, it doesn't crush others' dreams and ability to do what they need to do. And by 2028, your abundance is blended, woven into, combined with collective abundance. You can't thrive while others suffer because structure doesn't work that way. Or you have, maybe personal wealth that you extracted from the collective and you wonder why it feels so empty, why no one actually trusts you. So, these 4 development areas I just mentioned are the minimum. Maybe you'll find more. If you work all 4 of these angles, these edges from August 2026 to July 2027, the Jupiter-Saturn trine will transform you, right? If you work none of these edges, the trine passes and you consumed information about transformation without transforming. And as I said in part 1, check it out if you haven't seen part 1, is that trine energy, we have to use it for it to be activated, right? So now I'm going to talk about how this trine impacts our relationship dynamics, and we should use this energy to build together. So in terms of how this Jupiter-Saturn trine affects partnerships and romantic and other relationships, right, is, it wants us to focus on long-term building in our relationships, right? The question is, what are we building together that will last beyond us? Most relationships operate on immediate satisfaction, current needs met, as long as, we are happy, beautiful for romance, but insufficient for a partnership that lasts decades, right? And Saturn's, Jupiter's trine asks couples, partnerships, business, whatever, friendships, what structures are we creating together that serves a vision beyond our individual desires? So example is family, legacy, businesses that provides for the community, creative collaborations that impacts culture, home that shelters not just us but those who need refuge, and spiritual practice we co-hold and will pass to our students, right? And of course we need to be careful, especially when inviting people into our homes because of everything, but helping people in the right ways. So the practice is, in August 2026, identify what you're building together, have the conversation, what do you want to create together with others that will matter in 20 years, 50 years, beyond your lifetime. If the answer is I don't know, or just be happy together, that's the data. And this might mean the relationship isn't about building, it's about being, and both of these are valid. But if you want a partnership that builds empires, literally or metaphorically, you need a shared vision, which is Jupiter energy, and a commitment to do the work, which is Saturn energy, right? So as we get into April 2027, the test will happen 6 months into building together from the first trine in August, right? The structure reveals where you are aligned, where you are not, where one person's vision, conflicts with another's, where capacity differs, where one wants to build and where others, want to coast and not put any energy in, but just extract and take right without giving. And the partnership will either renegotiate to a new way to achieve alignment, or reveals misalignment that might end the relationship, right? And Saturn doesn't care about preserving relationships that don't serve. Saturn cares about integrity. And if structure reveals you're building different things, honor the truth that serves both people. And this is better than pretending everything's fine, which a lot of us can do, right? So by the time we get into July 2027, the final exact trine on the 12th of July, right? If the partnership has an aligned vision and has done the work, manifestation will happen, right? What you built privately, water, home, emotional foundation, becomes visible. The fire, public offering, the action, creative leadership, the empire you built together starts impacting the world beyond just two people or your group, right? If the partnership didn't align, then July 2027 may be the ending of that relationship, the completion. And remember, it's not a failure of that relationship, it's just that you're both on different life paths now. It's time for you to get off at that bus stop and move into something different that does align. The relationship served its purpose. That purpose is now complete. Honouring the ending creates space for what each person is actually called to build, right? Even though, yes, it's going to be sad and it's hard to let go and all of that. So, in terms of the water trine intimacy from August 2026 to April 2027, it wants us to build emotional safety as a foundation in our relationship. The Cancer Pisces water trine says the structures, routines, habits you build in a relationship must be sourced from emotional safety, not just talking about feelings sometimes, but genuinely having the ability to feel vulnerable, holding each other's vulnerability, speaking truth even when it's scary, even when it can hurt, hearing the truth even when it threatens, and staying present during uncomfortable moments, right? So in terms of the practice, building emotional safety, into your relationships, thinking about the infrastructure, the habits, the needs and wants of everybody in the relationship. So for example, a weekly relationship check-in where you speak the truth, the daily practice of one thing I'm grateful for about you and one thing I'm struggling with that I need you to know, therapy together if needed, arrangements about how conflict gets handled, not escalation, not shutting down, but staying present through difficulty. And non-violent communication is a tool I recommend for you to look into that and see if you can implement that into your relationships. And the structure Saturn should serve you being vulnerable, which is Jupiter in Cancer's needs, and transcendence, which is Saturn in Pisces, creating spaces strong enough to hold deep feeling without drowning in it and accusing of it, holding space for truth, right, instead of blame. And by the time you get into April 2027, the test, the real conflict arrives here when, both the emotional safety infrastructure that you built either holds or it cracks, and if it holds, you can process the hard things together and the relationship can deepen. If it cracks, you recognise what needs to be repaired, right? Do the repair, or recognise repair isn't possible and honour that. And as you go into July 2027, this is the fire trine co-creation when both Jupiter and Saturn are in fire signs, and this is visibility and leadership together. So Leo Aries fire trine says what you built privately now becomes public. If you are co-creating a business, art, teaching, any public facing work, this is when that work becomes visible. So the practice is launch what you built together, not forcing manifestation before it's ready. But if you did the water work, and if that was genuine, the fire trine offers a natural moment to go public. So maybe you will decide to do a business soft launch or relaunch to an inner circle, water energy, during, maybe you chose that during, August 2026 to April 2027, July, you bring that into your market, what you soft launch into public. Sort of public offering, and creative projects can give birth now publicly because they're just stated you gave birth to them privately, and now you share them with the world. Teaching that you developed in a small group is now offered at scale, and the home you built together becomes a gathering place for a community. The fire, requires both people or people in a partnership to show up visibly, leading together, occupying and living creative individual freedom and independence, but as a partnership, right? And if one person wants visibility and the other doesn't, this becomes clear by July 2027, and honor that difference, instead of forcing it, and try to come to a resolution. The shadow in terms of relationship is used in partnership to build empires without your partner's consent. So the wound is, maybe one person has the vision, which is Jupiter energy, and they use the other person's labour, support, resources to build it, which is Saturn's vibe. But the empire serves the visionary egos, just one individual, it's not the partnerships, right? The partner enables, supports, sacrifices, and when the empire is built, discovers they're an employee, not a co-creator. This is Jupiter's shadow. Expansion and growth without discernment, good judgment, without laying the cards on the table, without asking the other what they want, right? And Saturn's shadow is structure as control in a relationship context. This can happen consciously, which is manipulation, or unconsciously, which is genuine belief that partner wants what you want. So examples of this: one person builds a spiritual platform, the other person manages logistics, finances, childcare. The platform grows, but only one person's name is on it. The other person's contributions are invisible. Or one person builds the business, the other person works in the business for free or low pay because we're building together. But equity, decision-making power stays with the original founder, or one person pursues a creative career that requires risk, the other maintains a stable job to fund it, and the creative career succeeds, but the success doesn't benefit the person who enabled it. So making sure give and take, equal relationships, sticking to the rules, having rules written sometimes is the best to protect everyone, right? To prevent this further, in August 2026, have an explicit conversation about co-creation. Are we building this together as equal partners? What does equal mean? Equal work, labour, equal decision making, equal reward, equal visibility. If not equal, what's the actual structure, and are we both consenting to it? So it's about building what equal means to you, writing it down, as I said, making it explicit, especially the things that are usually left implicit is best. Saturn loves contracts. Get the structure before building, get the structure clear before building. As you go into April 2027, check if reality matches the agreement. Is the partnership actually functioning as agreed, or as drift happened? Adjust, change, or acknowledge the drift. So as we get into July 2027, when manifestation happens and the empire becomes visible, who gets the credit? Who benefits? If the answer is mostly one person, was that agreed upon, or has somebody been exploited, or have people been exploited? Ultimately, relationships during the Jupiter-Saturn trine can either build genuinely together, create structures, routines, habits and lifestyle changes that serve both people or people involved and the collective, or one person builds an empire using the other's resources and using them as a resource, So your honesty and openness and having the conversations determines which one happens, So get clear, be honest, have the conversations even though it will be hard. So now, I'm going to talk about 6 practices that can help you implement these day to day. Come back to this. I do these long audios, so every time you listen to when you go to sleep, whatever. I know I can join on, but I'm going because I really want you to succeed, right? Now I'm going to give you practices that can help you do this, do these things in your life. Then I'm going to talk about how to try and impacts your health and body, give you some reflection prompts and questions, 3 integration questions, and then finish up with the timeline and conclusion, right? So in terms of the 6 practices that you can use, these are designed specifically for Jupiter-Saturn trine activation, right? So the first practice is a foundation audit. This is somatic, right? So this is August 2026. Assess, review every structure, every routine, every relationship in your life, your work, your home, spiritual practice, community, everything you do. Review it. Ask yourself, does this foundation, does this habit serve growth, or does it limit my life's goals, right? Why? Because Jupiter wants to grow. Saturn requires structure. Most people have structures, routines, habits built for a past self that no longer serve the current calling, the self you want to become, right? So in August 2026, the water trine offers a gentle time to assess the foundation before building on it. If the foundation is cracked, building on it can lead to collapse later. So how do you do this? In week 1, do a relationship audit. Write a full list of all significant relationships, romantic, family, friends, colleagues. For each of these, ask the body, does this relationship feel like a foundation? Does it support growth, holds me during transformation, challenges me towards truth, or feel like a ceiling, like that limits your growth, keeps you small and resists your growth and evolution? Foundation relationships, your body opens, your breath deepens, a sense of safety and support. Ceiling relationships, your body can contract, you can feel tense when you're around these people, your breath can become more shallow, and your sense of constant responsibility and constraint, like you can't be free, is typically present in these. In week 2, you can audit your work and money, your current income sources, how you spend time, what you're building professionally. In terms of checking in with your body, ask, does this work feel like a foundation or ceiling? Does it support where I'm growing or keep me stuck where I was? In week 3, have a home environment audit, where you live now, how space is organised, what you surround yourself with. Does this home support growth or prevent it? Does this environment nourish transformation or maintain tradition and the status quo and conforming? As you get into week 4, have a spiritual practice audit. What practices do you have? How consistent are they? Ask yourself whether they serve growth or are they performed from sud. Does my practice feel alive, or like you're obliged to do it? Does it make you feel alive? That's a foundation. If it makes you feel like it constrained, that you need to do it out of obligation, that's a ceiling. So this is a body-based judgment, not mental. Your mind will rationalize your ceiling relationships, saying things such as, but they need me, or ceiling work as, but it pays well, or your body knows, right? The foundation opens you, the ceiling contracts you. trust the body, and after the audit you will have the data that your body's given you, right? And you'll see what foundations, what habits, what relationships, what work actually support you, what needs composting, ending. Don't immediately burn everything down. This is the caution of Saturn energy, but you know what's true. Now you can build consciously, right? The second practice is August 2026 to April 2027. This is a faith check, right? So how you do this is do a monthly inventory of what you actually believe versus what you claim to believe, testing faith against structure, behavior, evidence. Why? Because Jupiter is faith, belief and philosophy. It's easy to claim I believe this or that, such as I believe in abundance, community and service. It's harder to build and live a life structured around those beliefs. This practice catches spiritual bypassing. Believing one thing and living one thing, is the opposite thing. So how do you do this? So August 2026 to April 2027, this is 9 months in total. So set aside 1 hour, journal. What do I believe? What do I claim to believe? List them: abundance, community, body wisdom, collective freedom, whatever you say you believe. And then ask yourself, what does my actual behavior so I believe? Evidence: how you spend your time, where your money goes, what you prioritize, when you're stressed, who you serve, how you treat yourself and others. Where's the gap? The claim versus evidence. So for example, the claim: I believe in community and interdependence. Evidence: I live alone, work alone, socialize rarely, hoard resources, never ask for help, and pride myself on independence, right? So the gap is I claim collective values but live hyper individualistically, right? The practice is not self-judgment, just truth. Faith check isn't I'm bad for not living my values. It is, here's the gap, now I can work with reality instead of fantasy. And by the time you get to April 2027, specifically after 9 months of monthly checks, final assessment: has the gap narrowed? Are your beliefs and behaviour more aligned? If yes, the faith is becoming structured. Jupiter and Saturn's energies integrating. If no, still performing beliefs without living them. The integration, the truth is that true faith isn't what you say, it's what you build, and what you build in your life. This practice makes that visible, right? The third practice is deepening your sense of self and other things. So what you do is return to the foundation from August 2026 and go deeper. Same thing, next level. Why? Well, this is the second water trine, April the 3rd, right? It is in the same Naksatra, Elisa and Bhavati, but in higher padas, right? Same teaching, but more sophisticated. So April asks, what you built in August 2026, can you deepen it? Right? It's more subtle, more nuanced, more tested, more real. So how do you do this? Identify what you started to build in August 2026. So examples of this could be a better relationship foundation, spiritual practice, a business foundation, a creative project, being more involved in your community or personal healing. And ask, what's the next level? Not add a new thing, but deepen the current thing. So examples are maybe in August, in terms of relationship, you built an emotional safety plan, infrastructure, weekly check-ins maybe. And April, you can ask, can you hold harder truths, stay present through deeper vulnerability? You may have changed some things in your spiritual practice in August. Maybe you establish a daily meditation practice. In April, you ask, can you maintain a practice through the distractions that come up, doubt, dryness, challenges? Maybe you decided in August 2026 to do something in your business. Maybe you clarified the vision and started building or rebuilding, In April 2027, you ask, can you refine the vision, test it against reality, change it based on feedback? And as we go into, thinking about this, August 2026, when, both were in part of one, Saturn and Jupiter, this was starting, learning, establishing a foundation, new habits. And as we get into April 2027 in part 2, it's all about refining, changing, analysing, testing the goals and the plans we said that we would do against reality. The deepening isn't more hours, more effort, bigger scope. It's more truth, more focus, more integration. So, you do this in April 2027, and the integration continues through July 2027 through to 2028 and through the years and decades of your life. But ultimately, by July 2027, the foundation isn't just slayed, it's tested and changed and refined. The fire manifestation in July 2027 is sturdy because the water work went deep, not just wide, right? So the fourth practice is water to fire transition, and this happens April to July 2027. So what is this? This is consciously preparing for private work, the water energy, right? To become a public contribution, as I said. Why? Because most people will hit the fire trine in July 2027 when it's in Leo and Aries, and either force visibility before the foundation's ready, so a premature launch, or resist visibility despite the foundation being solid because of the fear of being seen, which we can all deal with, right? So this practice prevents both. You prepare for the transition consciously. How? May to June 2027, transition months between water leaving orb and fire entering orb. So take an inventory, what you built in August 2026 between until April 2027, the water period. Ask yourself, what emotional work happened between these dates? What spiritual deepness was reached? What private structures, routines, habits were built? Write them down, make it conscious, and ask what's ready to be said. Not everything private needs to go public, but what work did you do privately that serves sharing? So emotional healing gives you the ability, the space to hold others' healing and help them. Spiritual practice gives you the wisdom to teach others, right? Private writing and creating that's completed enough to offer, to give, to share with others. Business foundation solid enough to launch, and community practices ready enough to scale. Ask what needs more water, what's not ready yet, what still needs private processing, change, refinement and improvement. So honour that not everything manifests in fire, some things stay in water by design. So prepare for visibility. If you have identified what's ready to say, prepare. Logistically, how will it be said? Platform, format, audience. Emotionally, are you ready to be seen, to receive feedback, to hold a response? Structurally, does the thing you're launching have the bones to hold public engagement? And by June specifically, the final month before the fire trine, check, am I trying to force fire visibility to escape water? Is the depth work, have you gone deep into your psychological, emotional, spiritual, wounds, deep enough? Is that work finished? Does it need to continue? Or are you resisting the fire, the visibility, because you're afraid, even though the work is ready, you've done the deep work, right? And by the time you get to July 2027, launch, offer, become visible, not forced, not resisted, but a natural manifestation of the water work, right? And the integration of this energy prevents premature visibility, performing before, the substance exists, and delayed visibility, hiding despite the work being completed. Water teaches, fire manifests, transition honours both, right? So as we get into the fifth practice, we use our body as structure. This is somatic integration, right? So from August 2026 to July 2027, What is this? Well, you use your body as a laboratory for understanding Saturn's structure and Jupiter's expansion integration. Why? Because Jupiter-Saturn trine is conceptual, planets, aspects, philosophy, and practical, actual life changes, right? Both. The body is where conceptual meets practical. Your body is the structure. Saturn rules the bones, and form, bringing things into practical reality. And expansion, which is what Jupiter wants you to do to grow. It's the possibilities, the ideas, it's the breath. Working with both body and, ideas, faith, directly teaches the integration. So how do you do this? Well, from August 2026 to July 2027, start a weekly practice. Part 1, Saturn in body 10 minutes, sit or stand, feel your skeleton, the bones that hold you upright, the structure. Notice where, the structure is rigid, held, defended, armoured, where the structure is aligned, supportive, more easeful, flexible, strong, without force. Saturn wants you to ask this question: where am I controlling structure instead of allowing structure to serve? So example could be jaw clenched, controlling, spine aligned, serving, shoulders held high, controlling, hips grounded, serving. Breathe into the rigid structures, routines, habits, not forcing them to release, just bring awareness. Let structure recognize towards alignment instead of control. The second part is Jupiter in the body. Do this for 10 minutes, same position. Feel your breath, the growth, the expansion, the capacity, the skill, the ability. Notice where does the breath flow easily into expansion, where does the breath get stuck, contraction. Jupiter's question that it wants us to ask is: where am I expanding authentically versus forcing growth and expansion and change? So for example, do a belly breath, full authentic expression. Test breathing is shallowed and rapid, force expansion. Anxiety presenting as energy. Breathing deeper into places where breath wants to go, not by forcing big breaths everywhere, just allowing natural expansion when and where it's ready, right? And to integrate this part 3, do this for 10 minutes. Feel the structure, Saturn bones, and expansion, Jupiter's breath at the same time. Notice where they work together, where they fight, and to integrate this energy, ask yourself: where does my structure support my growth and expansion? Where does structure limit my expansion, the expansion that's needed for me to be more authentic? Where does expansion escape the structure that's necessary? Example, aligned spine structure allows full breath, expansion working together. Clenched diaphragm, rigid structure prevents belly breath, limited growth, fighting. Hyper-extended back, forcing expansion without core support. Escaping necessary structure results in imbalance. Adjustment and change this, right, until you feel that, structure, routine, lifestyle supporting your growth. And, your expansion flows through structure, not perfect alignment, just felt a sense of integration. So the variation by element, August 2026 to April 2027, the water trine, focus on fluid structures, routine, habits, lymph nodes, blood, tears. How does the body structure and expand? What are you holding? Emotion. Where in your body is emotion holding in tissue? How can you release it? How can structure support emotional release? Tears, shaking instead of preventing it. And as you go into July, the fire trine, right, and focus on energetic structures, routines, habits, nervous system, breath and heat. Ask yourself, how does my will help me expand and bring more structure, my willpower, right? Where is fire, creative energy, libido, anger structured healthily? And where is fire too controlled, such as you may feel more depressed, flat, or too unstructured, where you may feel chaotic, mania, anxious, right? So to integrate this energy by July 2027, your body knows Jupiter-Saturn integration directly, not just a concept, it's a lived experience. The body teaches structure, serves expansion. When both are aligned with truth, the knowing informs how your body builds everything else. In terms of, the final practice 6, this is the manifestation ritual, which you should do in July 2027. This is another embodied somatic practice. So to do this is a ceremony activation of fire. Trine energy allowing you to manifest and call forward what was built in water. So why do you do this? Well, the fire trine, July 12th, 2027, is an ending of things, right? What you built privately between August 2026 and April 2027 is meant to become visible. What's ready to be said, only right, don't force things. So this ritual marks the transition consciously instead of letting it happen unconsciously. So how do you do this? So on the 12th of July 2027, the day of the exact trine, or 3 days before or after. So, preparation, review all notes from August 2026 forward. What did you build? What foundation was laid? What emotional work happened? What spiritually deepened for you, what structures, routines, habits were created? Identify what's ready to manifest, what wants to be seen, said, offered and expressed and launched, right? Okay, so in terms of the ritual, it should take you about 2 hours. So part 1, 30 minutes, which is the water acknowledgement. So create a water ritual, a bowl of water, objects representing what you built from August 2026 to April 2027. Photos, symbols, written intentions. Sit with water, speak aloud or write. This is what I built in a visible realm, space. And this is the emotional truth I faced about this. And this is the spiritual deepness I reached. This is the foundation that's now complete. Honor the work, even if it feels incomplete, even if it's hard and challenging. You went into the water, well, you should have, and you built the foundation and you did the work, so acknowledge it. Part 2, which is fire ignition, 30 minutes. Also, so light a candle or fire in a safe place. The water foundation now needs fire manifestation, right? So speak aloud or write. This is what's ready to be visible. This is what wants to be manifest. This is how water becomes fire. Be specific. Not I want success, but I'm launching this specific thing I built. I'm stepping into this specific leadership role. I'm claiming this specific freedom, right? Independence. As you name each thing, feel it in your body. Where does the manifestation want to live? Solar plexus for creative power, heart for service, throat for voice, etc. Part 3 is the embodied live action. This is 30 minutes. Take one physical action right now that begins the manifestation. Not I'll do it next week. Now, examples of this: publishing the thing if it's writing, creative work, sending the message if it's a relationship, communication, making the call if it's business, money, setting the boundary if it's about your personal freedom, claiming the title if it's about freedom and leadership and identity. The action cannot be small, it must be material, practical, physically done, lived, embodied, real. Fire wants action, not more planning, right? And the final part, integration, which should take 30 minutes as well. Sit with both water and fire present, water bowl, candle flame, your body between them. Feel the foundation, the water supporting your manifestation, the fire, your emotional truth enabling visible action, your spiritual deepness becoming, more deep and creative as well in its power. So your spiritual deepness becomes creative power. Speak gratitude to yourself for doing the work, to ancestors, guides, your lineage, your ancestors, as I said, for supporting, or whoever, physical people, for supporting you, to the planets for offering this teaching, and then close the ritual. And then after the ritual, manifestation unfolds, July 27 onwards, you don't complete manifestation, you begin it. The fire burns, you look after the fire, you tend to it, you don't control how it manifests, but you honor it's manifesting. So to integrate this energy, doing this ritual prevents unconscious manifestation, where you don't realise the fire trine happened until it's over, and forced manifestation where you try to make things happen instead of letting the water foundation become the fire expressed naturally. The ritual holds both. You're a conscious participant and you're trusting the process, the unconscious process that you cannot see. So now I'm just going to talk about your health and body and how this trine can impact your body, right? And remember, this is not medical advice, this is astrological pattern recognition, and you should always also consult actual doctors or healthcare professionals for health concerns. So Jupiter in Cancer is about, our digestive and nourishment system. Cancer rules our stomach, our breast, our digestive system, our chest, upper alimentary canal, our duct, thoracic duct, our lymph in our upper body, uterus, right? In some traditions, but Scorpio rules the uterus and genital organs in other traditions. So Jupiter transiting Cancer, August 2026 to April 2027, can result in some physical manifestations. So we can have digestive changes, so our expansion Jupiter of our ability, growth in our ability to, to nourish ourselves and others. This can manifest as increased appetite, the body wanting more nourishment, more food, better nutrient absorption, digestion improving, or digestion becoming more overwhelmed, taking in more than the system can process, because we're feeling emotionally overwhelmed, and this can manifest as indigestion and bloating in our breasts and chest changes. Cancer rules the chest, Jupiter expands, so we could have more chest opening, literally for the breathing, heart space expanding, tender breasts, especially for people with monthly cycles, menstrual cycles, right? Jupiter can intensify these and increase these, right? Or our chest tightness, if our emotions are stuck, this can be Jupiter trying to grow, but the Cancer energy are emotions restricting this need to growth, right? So in terms of our lymphatic activation, our upper body lymph is more active, might manifest as better immune function, as our lymph nodes clear more effectively, or swollen lymph nodes without infection because our system is processing emotional material, or a need for us to support our lymph more, dry brushing, rebounding, massage and all of that to support all the emotions that we're processing. Or emotional eating patterns can come to the surface because Cancer equals nourishment and Jupiter equals expansion. So the shadow of this is using food to soothe emotions instead of processing emotions. The gift is understanding what actually nourishes us versus what just fills emptiness. So what this means, your relationship to nourishment, literal food, and emotional feeding is up for transformation. The body is asking, what actually nourishes you? What are you consuming that depletes you and takes away your energy? How does, your emotional state affect your ability to digest, right? So to work with this energy, honor your increased appetite if it's genuine nourishment seeking, if you really need that food, right? Your body needs more motivation for transformation. Notice emotional eating patterns without saying. Jupiter wants awareness, not punishment. Support digestion, warm foods, mindful eating, gratitude, practice before meals, lymphatic care, movement, hydration, dry brushing, body work, chest opening, breath work, heart-centered practices, allowing, yourself to express yourself emotionally. Saturn in Pisces rule our feet and the moon boundaries, Pisces rules Feet, toes, our lymph system, full body, immune system, pineal gland and subtle energy bodies. So Saturn in Pisces from August 2026 to April 2027. Well, Saturn's been in Pisces for a while, but in terms of this trine, because it moves into Aries, right? But anyway, this can physically manifest as foot issues because Saturn structure burns in Pisces. Feet might manifest as chronic foot pain without clear injury, standing on ground that's shifting, changing. Literal metaphor for Pisces, dissolution, letting go, change, right, restructuring. We can have plantar fasciitis, where the fascia, connective tissue structure on our feet, is under stress and need for better foot support, shoes or grounding practices. We should recalibrate, reset our immune system. So Saturn is all about testing limitation, and in Pisces, our immune and boundaries are being tested. So our immune system being tested, getting stuck more, sick more, or our body finally fighting infections it was suppressing, so we can have autoimmune clear-ups or flares, body questioning our self versus not self at the cellular level, so who are you, who you're not, and the body's processing this and extracting this from your cells. So as I said, your immune can strengthen, Saturn's discipline improving, Pisces boundaries function, or you can have boundary confusion in your body because Pisces dissolves boundaries, right? So as I said, Pisces dissolves boundaries, Saturn tries to structure boundaries, and this can manifest as extreme sensitivity to others' energy, absorbing physical symptoms from other people around you, allergic reactions to things you previously tolerated. This can be your boundaries tightening, or mysterious symptoms that don't fit a clear diagnosis. This can be the boundary between health, illness and unclear boundaries. Your sleep and your dreams can intensify. Pisces rules sleep, dreams and the unconscious. Saturn, rules structures, routines and habits. Your dreams can be more vivid, structured and teachable, or insomnia can happen if you resisted what dreams are trying to show you. And what this means is your physical boundaries, immune function and connection to subtle realms are being restructured. The body is asking, where do you end and where do others begin? How does your immune system know who you are from who you're not? What does your body need to feel safe in a world where you are dissolving, in a world where your boundaries are dissolving? How can you feel safe when you're letting go of what you know, right? So to work with this energy, foot care, grounding, literally bare feet on earth daily, supportive shoes, foot massages, reflexology, acupuncture, immune support, clean food, reducing toxins, alcohol, drugs and all of that. Stress management, unexpressed emotions can get in the way of immunity, letting go of toxic relationships, emotional hygiene, clearing space before and after being around certain people, salt baths, crystals, whatever, protecting yourself in whatever way you do that before you go into crowds. Dreams, keep a journal, honour what they teach, don't force interpretation. Boundaries, practice saying no, notice when you absorb others' energy, develop a not mind practice. With Jupiter in Leo, this is your heart and creative life force, July 2027. So Leo rules heart, our cardiovascular system, your spine, upper mid-back, solar plexus, circulation, size, vitality, creative life force. And Jupiter transiting in Leo, July 2027. The physical manifestations can be expansion in your Leo heart energy. Heart space literally opening, chest can expand, your breath can deepen once again into your heart, your cardiovascular health can improve, better blood flow, circulation can be stronger, or your heart vulnerability can happen, so you can have awareness of heartbeat, palpitations, emotional tenderness, manifesting as physical sensitivity, right? So Leo rules the spine, and it might manifest the spine straightening, better posture, that naturally happens. or back pain, bringing up spine adjustment and changing these to adjust your position, or holding on to patterns that need releasing, or your energy can run up your spine differently. Your kundalini can be activated if that's your path, or solar plexus expansion, Leo energy center, Jupiter expands it, so you can have improved confidence, personal willpower, stronger core, better digestion, because the solar plexus, rules. So physically you can feel stronger in your core, health, strength, better digestion, because the solar plexus rules upper digestion too. Or your solar plexus can be more sensitive, feeling others' energy, anxiety as solar plexus contraction, to do things to protect your energy. You can feel more energetic, your vitality can be increased, because Leo is the life force, Jupiter is abundance, and many people feel more energy, more aliveness, more creative drive, motivation. But the shadow of this is burning out if you don't structure the fire, where Saturn in Aries helps, so bringing structure to your day-to-day life is needed. So this means that your creative life force, your heart energy and vital power can expand. The body's asking, can you hold this much energy, aliveness? Can your heart stay open even when vulnerable? Can your willpower, flow without burning you out? To work with this energy, heart practices, breathe into your heart space, chest openers, yoga, gratitude practice, this can feed the heart, movement in the spine, alignment work, chiropactic, seeing a chiropractor, Alexander, or other techniques, strengthening your core, stretches, squats, whatever, to work with your solar plexus energy, maybe fire breath practices that build confidence with ego, so core strengthening, to honor your energy, honor the increase, but also rest, fire needs looking after, and rest, right, not endless burning in terms of your creative expression. Make art, be creative, have more play, have more fun, bring more romance, whatever lets your heart energy move through you, do more of it, right? Saturn in Aries finally rules the head and the andrils and our ability to start things. So July 2027, Aries rules, the brain, eyes, as well as the face and head, and the adrenal glands, as I said, starting things, stress responses, blood, and our muscles, especially our face and head muscles. So we can have more headaches and head pressure. Saturn, pressure structure in Aries might manifest as, tension, headaches, holding too much in our head, overthinking, structure headaches, jaw and neck alignment issues, or pressure at the third eye, crown, chakra level. So this is subtle body activation if that's your path, So because Aries rules our adrenals, which are our stress response, right? And Saturn disciplines, this could lead to stress response fatigue. If you have been running on stress, Saturn can say you can't sustain this, you can't keep this up, or you can do some adrenal strengthening, stress response strengthening. If you've been practicing, discipline and thinking about how you can build more change into your life. You could have jaw issues, because the face and jaw is ruled by Aries and Saturn's there. So, you can experience TMJ, teeth grinding, jaw clenching, the stress response, Aries being held in the face, and you can't fight it or flee it, so you clench it, hold it in instead. You can have eye strain as well, because Aries rules the eyes, and Saturn wants us to focus, right, and to let go and to be more disciplined, so our vision can change, so maybe you need to adjust your prescription, or get glasses or contact lenses, or tired eyes, because you're staring at screens too much and not getting enough rest. So make sure you get enough rest and practice closing your eyes more, even if you're not sleeping, turning off white lights and all of that, and all lights, and creating a proper sleeping space because Aries is initiation, beginning, starting things, and Saturn tests, we can have initiation, burnout, or breakthrough. So our ability to begin things is either exhausted, you can't start one more thing, you need rest, or strengthen. You can be, you can master the art of beginning and finishing. So what this means is your stress response, initiation, capacity, ability to start things, and head-centered energy are being structured. The body is asking, how do you handle stress? Can you initiate without burning out? Can your head hold vision without tension? To work with this energy, maybe do some head massage, scalp, face, jaw massage, reduce screen time, as I said, rest your eyes, stress management, maybe with adaptogenic herbs, sufficient sleep, stress management, really important in terms of your jaw. Have mouth guards if grinding, breath work to release tension, somatic jaw release, massage the jaws and stuff like that. In terms of stress response, practices that complete the stress cycle, so exercise, shaking, crying, laughing, not just managing the stress but releasing it. Practice starting things and finishing them, not just endless new beginnings, So ultimately, the Water Trine teaching from August 2026 to April 2027 is about our emotional body, our tears, getting in touch with our emotions, softening. The Water Trine activates our Cancer, digestive, nourishment, Pisces, immune, boundaries. So together our body is wanting to, or this astrological energy is giving us the space to process emotion through both systems. So any nourishment difficulties with taking in food, overeating food and stuff like that might be emotional, not just dietary. Immune challenges might be a boundary issue, not just a physical one. The gift is tears are medicine. Crying releases stress hormones, clears the lymph and opens the heart. If you're not crying during the Water Trine, emotions are stuck somewhere. Let the body soften, let the tears flow. This is the healing. In terms of somatic practice, what needs softening? Where is the body armoured against feeling? Cancer, Pisces, water says the armour isn't protecting you. It's preventing nourishment and healthy boundaries. Soften the armour. Not become defenseless, but let the body's natural boundaries, fascia, skin, immune system do their work without mental control. The ultimate body teaching of the Fire Trine, July 2027, is vital force, energetic force, long-term visibility, and using our creative energy in the right ways. The Fire Trine activates Leo's heart, spine, vitality, and Aries' head, stress response, and adrenals and initiation. Together your body is manifesting creative power through both systems. The heart opening supports action, that's Aries energy. Initiation capacity supports creative expression, which is Leo's energy, right? The gift is long-term sustainable fire action, not burnout, not exhaustion, but aliveness that can be maintained year in, year out. The structure, Saturn in Aries, prevents the creative growth expansion Jupiter in Leo from consuming you if you use Saturn's energy, but the danger is ignoring burnout signals because you're so excited about manifestation. Fire burns hot in July 2027, rest is still required or you'll crash by August 2027, right? So ultimately, what you need to ask yourself is, can you feel the fire without being burnt by it? Can your heart stay open while starting new things? Can you initiate boldly, bravely, courageously while honouring your body's limits and getting the rest and eating the right food and taking time out? The integration is creative power grounded in physical reality. Fire in the body, not escaping the body, right? So now I'm just going to give you 3 reflection prompts because I've given you a lot of practices, a lot of things to help you stay focused. So the first prompt, the first question to ask yourself over August 2026 to July 2027, and I know I've given you questions as well, other questions, but these 3 will really help you track your growth and evolution. So the first one is, what structure am I building that will last beyond the trine? So Jupiter-Saturn trine offers a 14-month window to build something that lasts beyond the trine, not temporary excitement, but foundations, habits lasting 5, 10, 20 plus years from now. So what are you building during this window? What will matter in 2035, 2045 and after you die or leave this physical body? Be specific, not a better life, but a business structured to outlive me. A daily practice I'll maintain until death. A relationship grounded deeply enough to endure, to last all future tests. Or a creative body of work that teaches after I'm gone. So why this prompt? Well, because most people will feel the Jupiter-Saturn trine as a temporary inspiration, a brief window of easiness and months when things flow. Then July 2027 onwards, when the trine leaves their zap orb, nothing actually was built, just consumed. Content, felt, feelings, had insights, no structure. This prompt forces you to name what you're building, commit to building it for 14 months and track whether you actually are building it or just thinking about building it, how to work with it. But in August 2026, your initial answer, what am I building? Write it down, minimum 300 words or voice record it. Be specific, have details, not vague. I'll be better, but concrete. I'm building X structure, routine, habit with Y components that will see by a specific time frame. So, I want to build this business and I'm going to build it by allowing myself to process my psychological, emotional, and spiritual needs, and I will do this by, the 10th of August or whatever. November 2026, this is your 3 months check. Am I actually building what I said? Where's the evidence for this? What have you done materially to change? What structures, routine, habits exist now that didn't exist in August 2026? If the answer is nothing yet, that's the data, you change, Then in February 2027, the 6-month check, is your new habits visible? What's been built? What's working? What needs changing? What has the reality testing took place from vision to action from August, reality check, make changes. When we get into May 2027, this is the 9 months check. Structure, is it taking form? Have you started a new habit set? Water work, have you done that from August to April? Is it complete enough for the fire manifestation in July 2027? What still needs deepening before you go visible? July 2027, the final check. What I built August 2026 to July 2027, will it last? Has the structure emerged, appeared that will last beyond the trine? If yes, how will you maintain it? If no, why not? And what did you learn? Post 2028, looking back over the years, think about the structure that you should have built. Did it last? If yes, what made it last? If no, where did it fail? How can you try again? So the second prompt is, where is my faith escaping my discipline or my discipline crossing my faith? So Jupiter is faith, expansion, belief, optimism and vision, right? And Saturn is discipline, limitation, structure and realism, time. They work together when they trine, when faith informs what you build, discipline sustains what you believe. They work against each other when faith escapes responsibility. Saying things such as the universe will provide or discipline crushes joy, like there's no time for vision, just survival. Where in your life is faith escaping discipline, believing in things without doing the work to make them real? Where you're spiritually bypassing, such as I have faith, so I don't need to plan, effort or to bring structure into my life or change my habits. This is vision without execution, without doing. Discipline crushing your faith, like you're working so hard you forget why. Structure without meaning, such as I don't have time for joy, happiness, creativity, vision. I have responsibilities. Execution without vision, that is, right? Be brutally honest. Examples say that you say, I believe in abundance but I hoard money. I say I value community, but I never show up. I work 80 hours a week and call it discipline, but I've lost all connection to why I'm working. I meditate daily, but I'm using spiritual practice to avoid dealing with actual relationship problems, get real, right? And why this prompt is needed is most people split Jupiter and Saturn energy. Faith lives in one compartment, as I said, spiritual practice, weekends, some daydreams. Discipline lives in another. We use discipline only for our job, obligations and survival, never our goals. They never integrate the Jupiter-Saturn energy, and this trine offers the integration, but you have to see the split before you can heal it. So how to work with this energy? Well, August 2026, do the initial inventory. List all areas of your life for each. Where's the split? Where does faith escape discipline? Where does discipline cross faith? Be specific, make sure it's evidence-based, not I think maybe, but here's exactly where this shows up. So monthly from August 2026 to July 2027, pick one split to work on each month. So some examples of splits are, maybe in September you'll work on the split between I believe in community, which is faith, but I have isolated myself. This is discipline, crossing faith by prioritizing work over connection. So this month in September, whenever you work on this, attend one community event per week, even when tired. Maybe in December you work on the I believe the universe provides. This is faith escaping discipline. This month create an actual budget showing how money will actually flow, not just trusting it appears. Maybe in March, work with the belief such as I work constantly, which is discipline, but forgot what I'm building towards. So this is your faith being crushed. So this month, weekly listening practice, reconnecting to why work matters. Why did you initially want to do this work? What are you working for so you can have some pleasure? What is it that you're neglecting yourself, And by July 2027, do the final assessment. Has integration happened? Are faith and discipline working together in any areas? Where are they still split? What enabled integration where it happened? What prevented it from going where it didn't? What stopped the integration, right? So the final prompt is, how did emotional wisdom become visible leadership across this trilogy of trine energy from August 2026 to April 2027, finally to July 2027, right? So, as I said, this isn't 3 separate events, it's one long event. Feeling, testing, feeling, expressing, feeling as action, right? Track this in your life. So August 2026, Water, Cancer, Pisces. What emotional truth did you encounter? What did you feel that needed processing? What vulnerability surfaced? What intuitive knowing came up, right? Making the private, the invisible, the foundational, April 2027, the water deepens, same signs, higher powers, 7 degrees, right? How was the emotional truth tested? What deepened? What got more real for you? Where did the feeling from August 2026 either prove genuine, it held up under testing, or revealed itself as a fantasy, it cracked when tested, right? As you get into July 2027, the Leo Aries energy asks, how did the emotional wisdom from water become visible leadership? What action did you take? Source from that feeling. What creative work emerged from emotional depth? How did private processing become a public offering? Be specific with examples. August, I felt called to teach but terrified of visibility. This is Cancer sphere. April, maybe I started teaching small groups, tested if the calling was real. It was, people responded. I felt alive doing it. By July, 2027, I launched a public course, claiming teacher identity fully. This is Leo independence, right? So why this prompt matters, why these questions matter. Most people won't connect the dots between water and fire. They will experience, such as I felt emotional August to April, then I got creative July 2027, missing. The fire came from the water. The visible action was rooted in emotional truth. Skipping water, skipping looking after you, and facing your psychological, emotional, spiritual wounds, or continuing that work equals fire performance, right? Honoring water is fire, authentic fire, right? So how to do this, how to work with this. August 2026, document your emotional journey as it happens. Journal the feelings, vulnerabilities and intuitions. Don't analyse it, just record. April 2027, review your August notes. What emotional truth is still true? What deepened? What was fantasy? Document the testing process. July 2027, review both August and April. Now, what action is this leading to? What wants to be expressed? What's ready to be visible? Document the manifestation as it unfolds. Post July 2027, looking back, can you see the arc, the feeling, the testing, the expression, where the emotional work enabled authentic action? So where the emotional work, water energy, right, enabled authentic action. Fire, this is the Trinity's teaching, integrate it. So remember, these 3 prompts aren't casual reflections. They are conducting a surgical inquiry into whether you're using the Jupiter-Saturn trine or just experiencing it. Answer them honestly, review quarterly, track evolution, and by 2028 you will have documented your own transformation in real time. So ultimately, this trine first enters orb in 2025, as I said in the introduction. On the 30th of October, it left on the 5th of December. It's exact for the first time on the 31st of August at 11:16 p.m. British summer time, and then exact again on the 3rd of April at 1:58 p.m. and then on the 10th of April the orb leaves, and then on the 12th of July 2027, that's the 3rd exact final conclusion of the trine. The trine is complete. So ultimately, this trine wants us to harmonize our structures, routines and habits and build our empire. So the only thing, you need to ask yourself is, do you have the faith that Jupiter wants you to have to grow and to believe abundance is possible? And, to allow yourself to finally build your dreams, build your empire. So yeah, that's the end of part 2. Remember to check out part 1 if you haven't listened to it. Follow me, like me, share me if you think I'm worthy of all of that. I'm Imani, your holistic, astrological, karmic life coach, and it's been my pleasure doing this 2-part in-depth analysis on the trine that builds empires between Jupiter and Saturn 2026 to 2027. Take care and see you next time.